Going live. It's 3, 2, 1. My God, it is actually 2 o'clock. 2 o'clock. We have made it. I'm absolutely spot on time this week. How is everybody doing? Welcome to the Sunday service. It took a while to get here, but I'm here. I had to go for a run this morning, but I can't believe I've actually got 2 p.m. on the mark. Congratulations, me. I've just noticed as well that my evil eye is here behind me as well, which I got in Greece. I just see the blue over the corner of my shoulder. Good afternoon, everybody. It is indeed 2 p.m. You are more than welcome to come along to the Sunday service today at 2 p.m. Share the live, click like, follow the host, whatever else stuff you're supposed to do at this point of the thing. Everybody should be okay. There have been ferocious comments this morning. My apologies. When I set up the Sunday service this morning, you go into YouTube back end and you click on things and do stuff along the way, and I set the time for 2 p.m. and YouTube went, yeah, sure, 2 p.m. in Ireland is like 10 a.m. in wherever. I'm going to set the time to 10 a.m. So it set it to like 10 past 10 this morning that the Sunday service started. And there was people in chatting away first thing this morning already. And then when I came back from run, I went, why is there so many chats already? What? I checked the time, and all of a sudden it popped up. Everybody is live, and let me know that the stream is going okay so far, because everything's green on my end, so it's all running here perfectly. But I'm not seeing any concurrent viewers or any sort of stuff yet. So obviously YouTube has had a heart attack, as it does at least once or twice a week. Every single week. This week I did put up the topic of should we change the side of the road we drive on, and that has caused that's very similar effect to just crapping on a table and letting everybody into the house at one time, because everybody went, what? Why would you do that? We're all gonna die if you do that. But we'll discuss that today, because it's been an idea that's been floating around my head for a long time. It's actually an idea that's been floating around the internet like forever, since people used to be able to go over to Holland to buy cars, you know. And then the EU came in and stamped that over that. We're the only EU country who doesn't drive on the other side of the road, on what you'd say is the correct side or the not correct side of the road, whatever you're used to. But we're the only one that doesn't do it. So I want to talk about that today for sure. That's definitely going to be a topic of conversation. Another thing I didn't put into there is VRT prices, and I've actually pulled up a price list for you to look at to see just how much VRT is being paid in this country when you bring a car in from anywhere else. Doesn't matter where you come from. VRT nails you in every single respect. And I'm talking about new cars VRT, which is definitely going to affect the price of cars ahead in the distance. Huge amount of you in the chat already. We're literally going back I'm going back to like 12 o'clock today when Patrick Walsh pointed out that we're the only country in Europe that drives on what was always said to be the correct side. Maybe they're wrong, but it could cause trouble going north in the UK. Of course, we'd have to leave the north out. The north would be a problem, obviously, because they're attached to the UK rules, which means that they're going to be driving then on the opposite side of the road to us, so that would cause problems as we just hoover back and forward across the border. Not insurmountable, I don't think. I really don't think that's an insurmountable thing, but it's definitely something we'd have to consider along the way. Loads of people in the house already. Frank Metcalf, Paul O'Connor, Jason Thompson, William Bellingham, Steve McCormick, Patrick Walsh. Bloody hell, there's lots of in here today. Mark Turner-Smith as well. Automotive 3, Martin, delightful talking to you today, Martin. Martin is on our new podcast, which should be linked in the links down below if you want to get in touch and listen to the brand new podcast that's out right now. It's a good little listen. Right, this week is Paddy McGrath, international photographer, who's on the podcast this week. It's about an hour and a quarter long, I think, something like that, and it's just a nice relaxed little chat about, just like you'd have sitting in a pub having a chat to somebody. No COVID chat in it, none of that sort of stuff. Speaking of which, Neffet, of course, has come out today, I think, and said that we can't deal with the backlog of people going to the hospital until we get out of lockdown. So lockdown is making the waiting this longer. So there's like outrage again on Twitter. Just thought I'd give that a quick mention. Pretty difficult to deal with these days in people's minds, but we'll try and put the Neffet stuff behind us and put the COVID lockdown behind us, even though it affects us all. We're all in it together. Please don't feel alone. Please talk to your friends. Phone your family, text message someone, come into the Sunday service, take part in something out there, do something that distracts your brain away from the idea of being stuck inside your own house and inside your own head and inside your own 5 kilometers and all that sort of stuff you're supposed to be doing. Please don't focus too heavily on that. Focus more on here. If you feel like typing something in the chat, fine, we're all here for you. That's literally what we do here, is we all listen to one another all the time, every week, and everybody has a chance to speak. So it's a Chinese parliament here, is what you call it technically. Happy Sunday, everybody. Thank you very much. I don't know where to start with the chat, because some of it's 8 hours ago. Like Brian will flick through some of it. In the UK is in the house. Thanks, Jason Thompson, coming in. Paul O'Hare, 2016 diesel was 70% of cars sold. 5 years, only 35% of cars sold in January. Diesel, petrol, hybrid have taken a lot of their share. Yes, and there is a lot of people who bought into the petrol hybrid life, particularly the hybrid life, moving out of diesel and into petrol, and then suddenly realised that they were putting 80 quid a week into their fuel tank in diesel, and now they're putting 120 quid a week in petrol, because petrol is more expensive at the pumps for a start. And unless you're doing the minimum miles, unless you're doing that kind of hoovering about the town, using the battery in a hybrid a lot, low speed driving, you will not make any difference to your bank balance really by buying petrol or diesel. You won't. It's not going to be the same. If you're going to drive up and down motorways the whole time, diesel's still going to be the king, or full electric. If you don't fancy full electric, then you should be looking at diesels, and that's for that motorway journey. A hybrid petrol on the motorway isn't very fuel efficient, and probably not generally efficient. I mean, you could probably say that the CO2 emissions are probably a little bit higher as well, because the car is revving harder and it's having to work hard to do that as well. I've upgraded the desk here, so the desk is twice the size it used to be, which means I've had to move everything, including the lights. Everything has had to move around to compensate for this bigger desk. But next is upgrading the camera. The camera needs an upgrade next, and I'm looking at a couple of Canon ones that I think will replace that one pretty well, but none of them are in stock, and every one of them is over €1,000, so they're all a bit expensive, but none of them are in stock either. It's very hard to get them, and new cameras. Hopefully soon we'll get the camera upgrade as well, and get it on its own tripod and put it up at the back and things. We're trying to upgrade, because I know this live stream, people watch this live stream a lot, at like 5,000 people a week dip in and out of it, and then it gets watched on replays over time as well. So I'm trying to make it as visually appealing as well as I possibly can. I've always tried to make it as audio appealing, so you could listen to this in headphones or whatever. So if any complaints about the sound, then let me know. We've also created another thing called Discord, a Discord channel, which is kind of just a hangout little space, people who are like-minded individuals, not like Facebook, but it's similar. It's also linked to my bio. You can go to streamerlinks.com/bobflavin, and you will find the links to everything I talk about at one point or another. If there's a link that I found to do something, or something you can either buy or use, or whatever it is out there that I'm talking about, I tend to put the link into that little list, just so people know where to get it. Some of them are affiliate links to Amazon. I don't like using Amazon affiliate links, but sometimes you just can't get the stuff wherever I'm talking about here in Ireland, or you can't get it on the internet in Ireland. The only way to get it is to walk into a physical shop, and of course what's going on in shops right now? They're closed, so you can't do anything. It's all a bit of a pain in the ass at the moment, but we'll be fine, we'll be okay. Jason Thompson, Jay Tomo from the UK in the house, great stuff, thank you very much, Jay. Paul O'Connor's there as well. Frank Metcalf, come on Frank, loved your BMW PHEV review. I see Lexus are putting a second battery into their car, one in front, one in the rear, thus claiming further fuel efficiency battery distance. I know, it's funny how they still kind of refuse to take out the combustion engine part and just go all battery. They want to step down slowly over time to that. They are very efficient. I have a soft spot for Lexus, and I always have a soft spot for Lexus, but there's sometimes you look at it and go, would you not just bring out a full electric car to be done with it? Just give us what we're looking for, which is what we want, is a full electric car, and see what it's like, because I think Lexus would actually make really good full electric cars. Eric Rochford here as well. Mark Turner Smith, who is also on TikTok, and pointed out in one of my videos I look a little bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi, because I was at the launch of the new Cash Guy, and I quite liked the look of it, but I wasn't at it. I was in my kitchen watching it on YouTube like everybody else, but it was early in the morning, so I was in my dressing gown so I just did a TikTok from it while I was sitting there, and he reckons I looked a bit like Obi-Wan Kenobi. Martin's here, the UK, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, and of course Ireland driving the other correct side of the road. It has nothing to do with the British. It's a trait left over from chariot fighting. This is correct. It actually has nothing to do with the British. People just made their choice. Governments made their choice about driving what side of the road they wanted to drive on. That's pretty much it. But actually, if you look at old photographs, driving on the side of the road is a relatively modern thing. Some of the footage I used in my documentaries over the time, if you watch New York, like going back to the early 1900s, there's a video. We're inside a tram looking out the front window. I think it's New York or San Francisco or somewhere. We're in a tram looking out through a window, And you can see people are just doing U-turns, just coming up the left, up the right, going across the road, pedestrians walk. There's just no rules. There's just people just going wherever they want to go. And to some degree, it's trams that actually dictated the direction of traffic, because trams were there before cars. But they were there around the same time as carriages, which horse-drawn carriages. So it's trams that actually gave us the side of the road. So once we decided that we're going to have trams on the left side of the road going that way, and on the right side of the road coming this way, immediately cars just followed suit. So basically it was down to trams after the chariots, which chariot racing started the side of the road anyway, in the first place. Peter Cupid is here as well. Dara Joyce. Would cars be more affordable left-hand drive? Yes, they would. Technically, yes. We'd be able to buy them directly on the same production run as someone like France. So when France is making cars, making Peugeots or Citroens or whatever brand of cars coming out of France, we could buy them directly from France. They wouldn't have to specially produce any cars for us. Now, it would change matters when it comes to something like a Nissan Qashqai, which is built in Sunderland. So it's already built in England anyway. So the priority would be different. But if you wanted to buy German cars or French cars or Spanish cars or any of that sort of stuff, where most of them are made down there anyway, then you'd be changing your tax, your CO2 emission, you'd be changing everything on the car when it's on the other side of the road, on the other side of the car. So yeah, it probably would make them a slight bit cheaper, although we still have to pay VRT. Steve Blair's here. Mark Arundel is here. Hi Mark. Stuart Kerr. Happy Sunday Bob and everyone from sunny Edinburgh. Nice Edinburgh. I was talking to a man this morning from Scotland. Actually, we're making a video with him next week, I hope, if all goes well. Brian O'Donnell is here. Bob74. What do you think about the Volkswagen Scirocco? Good car, waste of money. No, they're all good cars. Really, Scirocco, the last version of Scirocco is one of the prettiest ones that they've made ever. Now it's gone, so it's going to go up in value eventually, but it's a good car, but it's based on a Golf underneath, so realistically you're buying a Golf with a different suit on it, which is good because they're very reliable. Golfs are pretty good and reliable. There's plenty of them on the road in fairness to them. Jerry Buckley, at least we're not listening to Bob listening to music. Oh, you're talking about TikTok, my music nights on TikTok, which is we just do like a DJ night, DJ set, just act the bodies with a little bit of music in the background. It works very well. We now are on Discord doing that exact same thing. Only you don't have to listen to me talking about it. Irish Runners here. Noel Davison as well. Dipped my toe into the TikTok world for the first time. Loved your spinning the disc the other night. You're a gas man. TikTok loves it. Thanks, Noel. TikTok is like taking your foot off the clutch, kind of. You have to have a little bit of a clutch on YouTube, because YouTube listens to every word you say and then metrics you and does all that sort of stuff. TikTok doesn't care less what you say. They just don't care. There will be rules eventually on TikTok, but right now it's like the Wild West, and it's gone pretty. Some of it's gone pretty nasty in places now. But that, I think, happens. That's a reflection of people's attitudes, really, in the street. I think that's what it is. You're kind of reflecting what's happening out there every day as people feel a little bit dark in their own minds, and just reflecting it back out on social media. It is happening. Patrick Keane, sorry, I keep touching the desk, which is wobbling the camera a little bit. Patrick Keane says, "Hi Bob, I hope you're keeping well. I'm currently in Moscow having stem cell treatment to halt my MS progression. It's 5 p.m. here now. Looking forward to the show. Keep me occupied." Good man, Patrick. Wish you all the best. Hopefully it'll work very well. I know we were raising money recently for Lindsay B, who was in the same situation. She's gone for stem cell treatment in Mexico currently. We raised her up. She was the girl who was on the Late Late Show a couple of weeks ago. I was raising money for her on TikTok for the last one as well. We got her over the 40 grand at first. It's gone on now. It's more at 70,000-80,000 euro now. But we were the first kind of push on that, which is brilliant for her. I wish you both the very best. But Patrick, look after yourself out there in Moscow. What's it like in Moscow anyway? Is it cold up there? I always assume Moscow's freezing. I don't know why. It's just, there must be a summer there at some point. There must be some relief from that eventually, but sure, Moscow is a brilliant place to go. Cyprus drives on the left. Yep, does. Alex Theodore, that was Andrew, sorry. And Alex Theodore says, with the motor tax rates coming into place, do you think the second-hand car trade will see a noticeable contraction of older cars on the road? I tell you what, the big problem with the second-hand car trade right now is the price of the cars. The VRT on the cars, the import duty, considering for Brexit, which is adding another 10% to the cars, they're getting expensive. Not just getting expensive, they just are expensive. Cars are getting beyond the price of mere mortals these days, particularly if you want to get something that's new or nearly new. If you go back a few years, The problem is insurance goes up. Once a car gets over 10 years old, insurance companies don't really like to insure those kind of cars, so they start to push that away from them. And the younger you are, the harder it is to get insurance on an old car. So you're stuck in this 8 or 9 year old section where the cars are very expensive. So right now, because of the way, if they mess around with motor tax as well, they're going to make some cars attractive and other cars not attractive. So you see what I'm talking about here, where we're being slowly sort of pushed off the road. Just a little bit, just pushed away from cars entirely. Whereas we've no alternative. This country has no alternative to cars. You either have a car or you're walking or you're cycling. And if you don't live in a city, as the vast majority still of people in Ireland don't live in a city, although they're migrating that direction, then you've still got a situation where people can't use it. And even in the city, public transport's fairly ropey. Kevin says, random question. If you take a car in first service and the dealer gives you a temporary car to drive, do you need to let your insurance company know, or is the car covered by dealer insurance? Two things there. Chances are it's not covered by the dealer insurance unless the dealer's in the car. Most dealers are not. Although some of them do have policies that cover people to go for test drives and so on, so you can be covered. Second thing is to make sure you've checked with your dealership that what is the situation, because they will definitely disavow all knowledge of you crashing that car. If you crash it, you bought it. That's essentially what will be said to you. And thirdly, don't take any risks. Ring your insurance company and do a temporary transfer of insurance. It will cost you nothing but a phone call. That's all that's going to happen. No insurance company is going to pay you to transfer or take money from you to transfer over your insurance, unless they do an administration fee or whatever, to transfer over insurance for just a day. It's just a test drive, just a replacement car. But generally, most times dealerships will just cover you anyway. It should be okay once you've cleared it with the dealership as to who is responsible for that car. Because most of them that I know of will have said the words at some point in their life, if you crash it, you bought it. William Hope, thank you very much. From Scotland in Edinburgh, lovely jubbly, has sent some money by Super Chat. Did I get my notification? It did, but it was a bit late. 10 minutes ago it notified me that I was live on air, but I'm live on air for the last 16 minutes. Come on, YouTube. What's the story? Very slow. Greetings from Bahrain, says CMS. Thank you. Oh God, Bahrain. That just sound anywhere else in the world except Ireland sounds fantastic right now. I'm sure if you're living in Bahrain, anywhere else in the world, Bahrain sounds good too. So it's always the stuff we can't have that we want more of. But Bahrain sounds like a really lovely, dusty destination. Whether it is or not, I don't know. Andrew O'Neill is here as well. Honest Truth says, afternoon Bob and everyone. Hope everyone's doing well, not too bored under lockdown. Still, chin up everyone. Neil in York says, chin up everyone, and you're right to keep the chins up. Keep moving forward, which is the best answer for you for basically everything. Colin Foley, afternoon Bob, hope you're well. Hope to get out and enjoy the nice weather this morning. I was out running this morning. I did a lovely relaxed, I suppose, 10k-ish this morning. Then my wife wanted to go running and it rained instantaneously. She was waiting for the shower to go over, but I went out and it was blue sky for the whole run. It was absolutely gorgeous. Lovely day out there. If you get a chance to go out and have a little walk around, do so, because it's lovely. Even a walk will make you feel better, I promise. Irish Foxhound is here as well. The Veda Bus, don't know what that says, but you're here. Andrew O'Neill says, hi Bob, thank great show. Worked a while waiting for a hydrogen car instead of buying electric. No, Andrew, being honest with you, I don't think hydrogen car is going to pick up in any meaningful way in the next few years. It's really expensive to make a hydrogen car, to make hydrogen, and hydrogen is nowhere to be seen yet. So, and what I mean by that is there's no hydrogen filling stations in Ireland. You have to get the fuel somewhere to make it work. So the only two ways of making hydrogen work is, one, you use a hydrogen powered engine, effectively an engine that will charge a battery that runs a car. Honda Clarity would be a good example of that. The other version is to just burn the hydrogen, or not burn it, but use the hydrogen directly to fuel the car directly. Those two options are explored, neither of which are terribly efficient. Battery power would be about 30% more efficient anyway, just by its nature, than hydrogen right now. So unless massive investment happens in hydrogen, electric's probably going to be our way forward. Electric's probably going to be the most useful way right now anyway, for sure, for the foreseeable future. There's good life left in petrol and diesel. You want to stay there, that's okay. But realistically, we're pushing forward now with electric, and it seems the car companies are very much on board with this. See how long that lasts, and find something else. Finbar Riley has donated by Super Chat as well. Thank you very much, Finbar. It's good to have you all attached today. And I can't forget my patrons who were there the whole time, and the guys who are on channel memberships. And there's just so many of us out there that support the channel regularly. And it is being invested into new laptops. It's a huge investment. It's hard to get stuff this year, technically, to get physical equipment for stuff. And it's also hard to go out and make films and make documentaries and do stuff because it's just, you have to motivate yourself into it. And then when you go out, there's no one on the streets. So you go outside to make a documentary, you look around and go, it's like a ghost town. It seems weird. But it's okay, we'll get there. I don't want to go outside because it's cold as hell. It's lovely and warm here. Well, it's warm because I was out running, but it's warm here in general. Mamin says Texas and Germany have recently shown that green energy has limits in the cold. What you're taking long haul vehicles going electric, would it work effectively in areas like the US? Now, that the problem with long haul vehicles is it's possible, and we do have buses which are uniquely kind of positioned to carry a lot of batteries because it's just the way they're shaped. So it is possible to do something long haul with electricity. The problem is going to be probably infrastructure and charge times, which is the other part as well. It's how quick we can charge things up, because when you start to run short, you kind of run out of what's going to happen next. Like when you pull over and you plug in and you're charging at different rates at different times, it can be difficult to kind of figure it out. But would that be something that's worth flicking over to and think about? You know, if you say, I'm going to charge the car up anyway, or I'm going to charge the truck up anyway, long distance driving would be something that's definitely worth looking into, because it's where you're going to save the most amount of money. And that's fundamentally what the change is going to mean to us, that we're going to change it because of money. It's going to be a business decision, I think, when it comes to these things, because money governs all when it comes to trucks and transport. So you got to think about that. How fast you can get things there, how long someone's going to willing to wait, and how quickly you can move it across the country when it actually lands from a ship. So they're the three things. After that, it's just about who can drive it and how much patience they got. Because if you're going to stop, like, they're governed already with tachographs, right? So you have to pull over at certain points for a stop. So if you manage to pull over the right place and get a charge, you could drive on, and it'd be very cheap, much cheaper than buying diesel ahead of time. Because that's what truck companies do. They tend to buy, like Ryanair or Aer Lingus, they buy millions of gallons of fuel ahead of time to run their trucks as well. So maybe not millions of gallons, but they certainly buy fuel ahead of time. Where was I? David Greenlee, Cyprus and Malta also driving on the left, just saying, like, your idea was driving on the right though. Well, from a driving on the right perspective, if we just look at that for a minute, what I was talking about there is that we can, not only can we import cars, and we can get more of them, so we can actually get them quicker from Germany, because not just Germany obviously, but from Europe, because we're in the EU, right? And also we might be able to do something with VRT. You know, we have to do something in that respect. So cars might actually get cheaper because we can get them out of stocks elsewhere, or at least we get more specs in that respect. Also, you would attract more tourists to this country because they can bring their own car here and drive on the same side of roads they're used to everywhere else in Europe. So right now, the only countries that are not driving on the right-hand side of the road is the UK and us. That's it. That's it. We're the only ones left, and we're still in Europe, whereas UK has left Europe. Now, we do have the problem with Northern Ireland. I get it. I understand Northern Ireland would either have to change or remain the same. And we'd also have to go through a few months and years of cars that are currently right-hand drive that would have to be filtered out of the market. You know what I mean? They would have to be disappeared out of the way. Otherwise, because like everyone in Ireland right now, the vast majority of people in Ireland right now, would have a right-hand drive car. So if we change the size of the road, you have to, because I've driven left-hand drive here, it is kind of difficult. It is a little bit weird driving left. You get used to that after a while though. The Veda bus says, would you expect diesel and petrol prices to remain low as electric cars are apparently cheaper to run? Does this competition help? No. Diesel and petrol prices are going up right now. They will continue to go up as the vast majority of cars in Ireland are still diesel or petrol. Whether to be hybrid or otherwise, they're still running in a combustion engine in them. There's still it's growing, but it's still only about 4 to 5% of the market is electric. Inquiry-wise, it seems much higher. Noise-wise, the amount of people who are actually making noise about these cars, it seems vastly higher. It seems like everybody's buying electric. But realistically, if you look at sales terms, it's still not everybody. It's a lot, but it's not everybody. We will see a tipping point this year. As I predicted last year, this year is going to be the year of the electric car. You will see much more choice, much better cars coming out this year. Instead of the kind of ropey, understeery things we've been getting for the last few years, it will start to be something a little bit more performance-y, something a little bit more interesting to drive, particularly when you start looking at how we drive, how enthusiasts like to drive. You'll see more of that coming this year in electric cars. So you will see a better choice and better options coming this year. Chris O'Connor says, why would we change the side of the road to drive on? Like, what's the difference would it actually make? Realistically, Chris, very little to us. But in a singular sense, right now, we have to wait until, say if you want a Volkswagen Golf, we need to prime the Volkswagen factories to produce right-hand drive cars at a particular point. So we fit into the factory at the same time as the UK. But we still don't get the same spec as the UK. We still import a lot of our cars from the UK, and the only thing we can do with our used cars, or to buy a different car, if we want to buy used cars, import them all from the UK. That's it. Or we have to recycle what we got here in this country, or we need to get them from Japan, who also drive the same side of the road as us. So that's our only choice at the moment. But if we change the size of the road, we can import cars from anywhere in Europe, and basically anywhere else in the world that drives the same side of the road. It would make it much easier to get them in here, much less of an effort. And plus, I reckon we could do it if we all just stayed home for 3 or 4 weeks and waited for the lunatics to run the asylum. Sinead Cassidy's in the house. Hello, Sinead. You're still out walking. Sinead is from my TikTok and also on our new Discord channel, which we created last night. In Discord, it's kind of a chat channel. So you can text, you can leave voice notes, you can do stuff like that along the way. But there is another section where you can employ a little electronic DJ. So you bring in, you just say what the song is you want, and the little DJ plays it out of a room. And if you put it on your phone, you can play it, and it's pretty good quality. You play it in your headphones on, and everybody can become a DJ throughout the night. And we started this last night. First night on the channel, there was a good probably 60-70 people in the channel straight away, but like that, it became a DJ night. So instantaneously, people were still on the channel this morning at 8:30 with a hangover, looking very miserable, but still playing music. And I think Sinead was one of them. So we're in the middle of the whole lot. There's Cross 13's in the house as well. He's answered some questions there. Finbar Riley says, hi Bob, I'm looking for the Kia Optima 1.7 diesel CRGI ISG estate and a Renault Megane 1.5 diesel estate and a Ford Focus 1.5 diesel TDCi Z-Tech estate. Which one would be the best choice? Visually, I like the Optima. I really do. That diesel engine probably has a few little issues with it. I've seen a few complaints about that one. Now, not saying anything particularly against it, but it is a common rail diesel, which tends to be a little bit more reliable than standard turbo diesels. But at the same time, the Renault Megane 1.5 diesel has been rock solid over all the years. That engine that's everywhere. That engine is all over. That's even being used in Mercedes now. That engine is a good engine. Been around a long time. Ford Focus, yeah, I'm not really keen on the Ford and the look of the Ford Focus. I prefer the older ones were nicer. The newer ones aren't quite as nice, and they're very colour dependent. Out of the three you're looking at, I would pick a Kia Optima, 7-year warranty as well. It's hard to sniff at that one. I think it's just a really nice car. The new generation one is a softer suspension, so it's a nicer yacht to drive entirely. Hopefully that helps you. And the FX7, hi Bob and gang, another quick week. Hope it's all. It is a quick week, wasn't it? A quick week, just really like mad fast week. Hi Bob, sitting on your old camera gear. Maybe, depends if I can get my hands on a new camera. Really, everything I do is done to a trimmed right the way down. So there's no cameras that I have that aren't in use. At some point, whether they might sit in a bag for 6 weeks, and then all of a sudden in one situation I want to pull that camera out and use it. But there's very little that I actually have hanging around that would be not in use. My Canon camera current, the SLR one that makes all the YouTube videos, that will go on to be something else. I'm sure it will. There's got to be a purpose I can use that for. I absolutely hate getting rid of stuff that I might need in the future. I will be selling an iMac if someone is interested in that. I have a 27-inch iMac downstairs. It's a late 2012 one, I think. It's got max RAM. It's got 1 3/4 hybrid terabyte drivey thing in it. And it's even got a graphics card. I used it for video editing for a long time, but I've transferred over to a MacBook Pro, and I had this PC as well. So the Mac has kind of become a little bit redundant. It's more of a sort of a browsing the internet thing, and it's got good horsepower, so it'll easily do a video editing. So if you're interested, get in touch with me if you want to get ahead of that game of that. I don't know what to charge for it yet, but we'll see how much it's worth. I'm sure Apple will tell me fairly rapidly how much these things are worth. But if you want to hit that, you can. That's the only thing I'll be selling at the moment. Frank Gooding, 530e, some car, but for 85 grand eyeball and stuff. I know, Frank. Welcome to Tala. I've been to Tala, yeah. I was through Tala the other day in that car. Cross 13 says Lexus have the UX 300e launching in Ireland soon. RRP 60 bloody grand. Sorry. As soon as I see a price, you go, oh my god, it's 60 grand. Lexus. But yeah, that one is launching. But I'd like to see what Lexus can do. Really, because Lexus Toyota group have such a head start in the battery technology stuff. I know it's not they've never been making those kind of cars. But they should have such a head start with battery technology, because they've been doing battery powered things, semi-powered, hybrid, self-charging hybrid, whatever you want to call it. They've been doing them forever. You think at this stage they'd be the absolute pinnacle of what they can do. Well, Bob says, Colin Whelan, who gave me some money by Super Chat, thank you. Interesting post in another group last night on Tesla lowballing existing Tesla owners on trade-in upgrades. Really? They're right, okay. Well, Tesla need the money. Tesla are not without problems. I know they have such big fan base. I know some people come in and go, if you're not 100% angelic about Tesla, they will just come in and start kicking you to death. And that's quite normal for Tesla owners. But really, Tesla are like any other car company. They have to make money eventually. They have to make a profit eventually. They might be out on the face of the save the world, but realistically, like any other car company, like any other company, they have shareholders and investors and so on, and it's their job to make money out of that. And really, I suppose, does Tesla want to take back in? This is the problem with a car company. Car companies have to do more than just produce new cool cars. They have to support what they got out there, the current fleet, as it would be called, or car park, as someone would call it. They've got to support new users that are entering into the market. By that, I mean they've got to support their trade-ins. Things have to be traded in and out, so things have to be pushed on to other dealerships. And of course, Tesla's not in the business of selling second-hand cars, right? Like, they don't want dealerships all over the place littered with 400 cars down outside, all second-hand diesel and petrols that are being pushed into electric. So that's not their market. But they also don't really want to support older generation, like Generation 1 Model S or Model X's, or the first ones of the Model 3s that are out, or whatever it is. They really don't want to do that. So I suppose there would be an element of just throwing in a low ball. Tesla just going, nah, we don't really want it. It will give you a price. Of course, we'll give you a price, but we're not going to really pay a top dollar for it. Realistically, there's such a burgeoning market out there in the used car market for electric cars. I look at Dundee or any of them out there, and you see very few electric cars up for sale. Either people are holding on to them, or people are putting really high prices on them. Need a drink. The coffee's going well. Darren McKenna, we did mention that, yeah. Darren McKenna says, why Sweden changed side? Because most imported left-hand drive cars. Correct, yeah. And you see the pictures, you've seen the picture of that. There's only seems to be one photograph of the morning where everybody's going left or right. This would not be something you could do in an afternoon. You would have to plan this over 2 or 3 years to try and make this happen. But I think with like a couple of years of proper planning, you probably could do it fairly straightforward. With everybody prepared. I mean, we stopped smoking in public and in pubs and restaurants. We did that in a week. We got rid of plastic bags. We did that in a week. Things can be planned out very, very carefully, and it can happen overnight. No big deal, straight away. So this could be done, but the benefits, what would be the benefits of it for us, would be the thing you really want to be looking at. Honest Truth says, any suggestion for a medium-sized SUV around 11k to replace my 11 reg Lexus CT200H? Oh, a terrible car. That's a terrible car. I only get 45 miles per gallon with the Lexus instead of, suppose, 70 miles per gallon, so just mind a straight diesel or petrol. Cheers, Neil, the only thing, yeah, that's what happens unfortunately with hybrids. When they sit out on the motorway, they're kind of useless. And Lexus CT200H, when I drove that home, the day it was launched, I drove it home, it just sat there going on the motorway. It just didn't, the engine never cut out, it never stopped. It just seemed to be tuned that way for lower speeds. Small to medium sized SUVs, there's tons of them around. There's so many in your price range that you could just pick one and away you go with them. Stick to German Audi stuff. You want to go for straight diesels because they tend to be very good. You will definitely get like an Audi Q3 or something around there, or even Q2 maybe if you're lucky enough. You'd get a few of them around that point. Go back up, hold on, and start shooting for me now. Keep going with the questions ahead. You're alright. Cross 13, I'm answering from 2:12 p.m. Right, we're sticking close to you. Left-hand drive would result in a 3,000 to 5,000 euro reduction in price for many models. It's a big difference. What drew my attention to it once upon a time was I went to Dublin Airport. This is a couple of years back now, but I went to Dublin Airport and there was an ad in Dublin Airport for the Seat Leon. And I think we were flying out with Seat on a trip as well. And the ad said whatever the price of the Leon was. Let's just put a ballpark figure of 30 grand, right? Or 25 grand, say. And we flew to Barcelona and we got out of Barcelona airport, and just outside the airport was a massive billboard for a Seat Leon, exactly the same car. And it was like 8 grand cheaper, 8 or 9 grand. But the picture was the same car. And it just bothered me from that moment onwards. I thought, hold on a second, where's that money coming from? How did it go $8,000 more expensive? And of course, the VRT and import duties and all these things we shouldn't have. I mean, realistically, if you buy a car in Spain, you will drive it back to Ireland and not pay any VRT, right? Because you paid tax once in an EU state, so you shouldn't have to pay any VRT in Ireland. Am I right in saying that? Dirty move. Steve McCormick. The likes of Dacia Spring EV is not being made for right-hand drive, I believe. It's not. No, it's not coming to Ireland even. Dacia Spring is not coming. The smaller electric cars seem to be a bit of a problem. Like the VW E-Up. And there was a Skoda Citigo, E-Citigo and all those. There's electric ones of those as well. None of them came here. Dacia Spring's not coming, or Dacia Spring's not coming either. So I don't know whether it's just because they're too expensive to put on the market here because of VRTs and taxes and things. And just in case you think I'm gone absolutely mad on the VRT and taxes, let me just show you something. This is a price list. It's actually a BMW price list. And this is the columns at the end of it. I did this on TikTok the other day. So that's the actual price of the car with all of this crap on it, right? All the stuff, all your options and everything else is on it. Jim Dunn, thank you very much. Jim Dunn just sent some money by PayPal. You're very kind, Jim. Cheers, man. But this is the actual price of the car here. And then this is VAT, right? So that's okay. VAT, I can deal with VAT. That's value added tax. Anyone in business knows there's VAT on all kinds of things and people pay it and that's the end of it. But this price here, this €11,000 is VRT. So when you combine VAT and VRT together, you go from 60 grand, well, 59,879 to 84,630 quid. Okay? Look at those two prices. So if you think I'm just being a little bit weird when it comes to VAT and VRT and all these kind of paying things, and I'm not. That's what's going on right now is those prices. That's a hybrid car. That's the BMW 530e price that I had in my review the other day, and I showed that price list in the actual video as well. And it just drew my attention that we're paying €11,000 on a PHEV car. So what's meant to be a good low CO2, good for the environment car, that's what we're paying. So what are we paying on diesels, petrols, electrics? We're going to have to start investigating this. It really is getting a bit out of hand, isn't it? Like, Patrick Walt says, if we swapped left-hand drive, all buses would have to be swapped because the door will be facing the main road. Correct. Perfect opportunity to improve. If Bus Éireann should go electric, end of story. They're going diesel hybrid. No reason whatsoever to go diesel hybrid. There's tons of options out there to go full electric or go into some other much better version of it. But no, they're going diesel hybrid and they're not going to change the side of the road either. But it would be a perfect example of being able to change over anything. Trains are already taken care of because the doors on both sides, so no big deal with that one. And I'm sure buses, it would be very easy to upgrade the buses as well. Thanks, Eric Roger. Keep hitting that like button, please. Yes, you're very kind. Thank you. We currently have 68 likes, but we 272 you in here, 276 you in here. Thank you very much. Chris O'Connor. Keith Colton says, hi Bob, TikTok is obviously hitting YouTube with them bringing the YouTube shorts. Yeah, that's I think what's going on at the moment. YouTube shorts seem to be doing that, but if you look at some of the I happened to come across one in the other app the other day, and I played this little short thing, and I looked at it and went, God, that's really good, like 1 minute shorts. But if you go to the actual YouTube channel that's uploaded that, they've no subscribers or anything. I don't know how they're running it. I don't know how they're picking up on the 1 minute thing. Could be interesting to see what's going to happen next. If they give us away, unfortunately YouTube tends to bring out a new way of doing something like YouTube stories, and then they bury it in the back of the app somewhere, so you can't find it anyway, and it doesn't spring to your mind when you're doing it, especially when you're spreading yourself like most creators will be spread across. Twitter's weird now at the moment. Twitter's a very, very strange space. There's some very strange, weird, I can't quite explain what Twitter's doing right now, but it seems a lot of virtue signaling is what I would call it on Twitter. No matter what you say on Twitter, you're wrong or you're agreed with. That's it. There's polar opposites. And then like Facebook is just always being, Facebook's always trying to sell you something. And then you have TikTok's like the Wild West, and Instagram, which is part of Facebook but is actually okay, but it's very hard to get followers on, and so on. This kind of list of things that we already put, most creators will post on most of those kind of platforms, and then suddenly thrown into the middle of that is YouTube stories and YouTube moments, or whatever they're going to call it next, and YouTube shorts. So I wish they'd kind of focus on just making YouTube better and a better experience for people. It'd be nice, you know. Chris O'Connor says, would a 2-litre diesel increase insurance a lot for young drivers? You think yes. Bigger engines tend to get you higher up the food chain of being able to drive them and enjoy them and have fun, but they also come at a bigger cost when it comes to insurance, petrol or diesel or whatever you're going to do after that. Even tax goes up the bigger the engine. So if you can keep a car under 1.4, you will have a better time with the insurance companies. Although I have seen on TikTok a few times people getting away with getting fairly reasonable insurance on 1.9 TDIs and even 2 litre TDIs. It's very much dependent on where you live, how it's stored, and what you tell the insurance company. Steve McCormick says, for existing right-hand drive cars, the only operational issue is actually the headlights. They have to be changed, but government might allow redirectional lenses and stickers to be used. That's true, yeah, they do point the wrong way. So the left headlamp on the car points up into the ditch, and when you drive on the other side of the road, they point into the traffic. That would be the problem. You blind everybody. Even with your dips on, you blind everybody. Why don't we drive on the right? We just copied. Well, we didn't copy the UK. We just took the law directly from the UK. That's pretty much what happened because we're attached to them. Because most of us, when we didn't have speed limits in Ireland for a hell of a long time. And actually the UK didn't really have speed limits on the motorways up until the 60s, I think. So it took a long time because cars weren't very fast. So we basically copied whatever would suit us. And most of our rules and regulations and laws and road traffic acts and stuff is generally sort of near as makes a difference a copy of what you would have seen in the UK anyway. So a lot of the laws are similar, if not exactly the same in some cases. We do have some of our own unique little things thrown in there as well, but most of them are the same. And that's the only real reason is we just went what the UK was doing because that's where we got our cars from. And we used to build cars here that were exported to the UK, so we just wanted to make right-hand drive ones. Dan Whelan's here as well. Hi, Dan. Bob, do you think governments would like less cars on the road? Pricing seems to have backed it up. 38 million cars in the UK, about 2.5 to 2.75 million cars in Ireland as well. So about half the population, kind of similar to the UK stats of 38 million. It's somewhere near half of, 40, there's nearly 70 million, I think, in the UK total. So it's about half the population have cars. And in that, a lot of people have 2 cars. So in actual fact, not even half the population have cars. It's not even close. It's the same here. A lot of people here have 2 cars. So really what's going on is if you want to lower your CO2 emissions, if you want to appear to be greenwashing and saying CO2 needs to be going down, then the fast way of dealing with that is to deal with the 38 million cars in the UK or the 2.5 million cars that are already existing on the road and transferring them into an electric sense, which is a really bad environmental decision straight off because you have to scrap all the cars that are already there and start again. You're generating a lot of new product, and that means more consumption of things. This idea that we need to do it in a really short space of time has literally come from Paris agreements and accords and things that have been negotiated by the EU over the years. And they know the Irish government's aware there's going to be fines at some point if you don't lower CO2. So now all of a sudden there's a lot of pressure on them to get it done too. So this idea we need to do it in the 10 years, in the 15 years, seems crazy actually, because I don't think the car industry can produce enough cars to even start replacing that many cars. And you see other people out there, like I watched Harry Metcalf talk about the BMW 5 Series or 7 Series or whatever he bought, which is a hybrid one, a PHEV one. And he's going to run that now because he can't run an electric car for what he does for work. He can't get the range of it. And I'm not too sure. He'd be the one man who should be able to get the range of it, but he just found it very frustrating to get charges here and there and everywhere. So there is some people out there, even people with knowledge, who just aren't ready for it and don't want to do it. But then you look at what Tesla's doing, and their plaid version of the S now promises 800 or 900 kilometers range. And they've been pretty good with it. I mean, I have no reason to doubt that. Everything that they've done so far has been pretty good long range stuff. Especially that long range Tesla I just tested, which seemed to have infinite range. Seemed to go on. It's more than people really need. You could definitely go away with just a standard range and use it every day, and you wouldn't even notice it, I don't think. Peter Paul, I would get rid of my petrol engine if I replace it with a big battery pack in my Mitsubishi PHEV. 160 horsepower from 2 motors is enough for me. It is usually. It's still expensive to buy the batteries. The problem is the batteries. Batteries are still quite expensive to get or to get hold of even. I mean, people saying you can get them out of old Nissan Leafs and stuff, but the range on those is quite small. So you could be buying into more trouble than it's worth there. I have a Seat Leon outside that I'd like to convert into electric car, but there's only one company in Ireland doing that, and it's cost prohibitive. The ideal for me in my mind would be, instead of having to generate tons of new electric cars all the time, would be to be able to get a kit to turn your old car into an electric car and then just recycle the engine and the drivetrain and stuff out of your old car. It has to be possible. I literally saw a electric bike company. They're not making the bicycle. They're selling you a kit for your bicycle. You attach a new hub, new wheel on the front. You attach it to the bike, and suddenly you've got an electric bicycle. Like it's this stuff has to be thought about. There has to be a way to do this that's affordable. Imagine taking a 10 or 15-year-old ordinary 3-box saloon or a 5-door hatchback and just upgrading it overnight with a full electric pack, drivetrain, the whole thing in one shot. It'd be perfect, wouldn't it? Then you stop all that recycling crap. Patrick Keane, it's currently -7 degrees in Moscow. All the best to Lindsay. Believe us not, both Mexico and Moscow are leaders in the world in stem cell treatment for MS and other autoimmune conditions. Correct, that's what I heard as well. I didn't know that. She said she was going to Mexico. I was hoping she was going to have a nice time. She goes, no, I'm going for stem cell. I thought she was going to all this, but now I realise she's going for stem cell treatment, which, yeah, they seem to be the two leaders in the world, where a lot of people do recommend them, yeah. Mini Eggs, hi Bob, really like the new logo modelling on the EV charge cable. Yes, it is kind of, yeah. It's between charge cables. I never wanted the new logo, which is BF. If you haven't seen it, it's on my podcast now, and I've used it a couple of. I'll roll it out slowly to YouTube as well. I have to get people used to it first. But the new logo is BF written in a sort of a see-through font thing, which is going on some jumpers and stuff that I'm going to wear when I'm making videos and all that. There's more car reviews coming up as well, but that logo was designed by two guys in Nace, Jack and Stephen. They designed it for me. They got in touch with me, asked me for a shout out. I went, can you design logos? Just look at this logo. And they went off and made that. It's perfect. So I got it from them as well, and it's going on to t-shirts and all kinds of stuff. So I'm going to have merch out for sale. If you want to buy it, it just has my initials on it over the next few weeks. But I was actually making it so I'd look a bit more professional, I suppose, in the reviews. I never look professional, but that's me. I just look like me. Patrick King, my hybrid battery will be dead when I get home on Patrick's Day. Going to be a memorable day. Forgot to mention lots of snow here in Moscow the last 5 days. Whoa, Moscow sounds freezing, man. Aidan McLaughlin is here as well. Rob Spaghetti, Irish people are absolutely can't drive, hence the change would mean permanent chaos on the roads. Don't know about permanent chaos. You have chaos for a little while. I've seen worse drivers than Irish drivers, but Irish standard of driving is actually quite low. Yeah, it is. Some people take it very seriously, other people just don't care. John Gerard, at the rate this vaccination has been rolled out, do you think we won't be able to out level 5 until 2022 and just back from swim in the sea? No, the way I think it's going right now, I think Micheál Martin made a massive mistake the other night when he went out and I also think there was an element of mistake on behalf of the journalist as well, who went with the headline another 9 weeks of lockdown or something, whatever the thing was, 9 weeks at the time anyway. When he didn't really say that, he just said severe restrictions. But there is a complete disconnect between the two Taoiseachs. Let's call them the two Taoiseachs. Between the two at the pointy end of this. I think it really has been a problem from the very beginning. So I think that right now we need to be looking ahead. I think we will start to move out of some form of lockdown from next month. Possibly just the kids back at school. Maybe we'll stay at level 5, but it'll go to 4.5 when you end up with kids back at school and everything else still remains shut. I think large gatherings will be not allowed yet. Pubs probably won't open yet. That kind of stuff will have to wait for another while, but I don't think we'll have level 5 come September this year. I think will there be enough vaccinations gone out and enough will have happened between now and then that we'll be able to move on with our lives in some way good. So we might get the summer sitting at home a little bit, and maybe the PUP payment might continue for people as well. Just take pressure off people. I know people are very concerned about the tax on PUP. Relax, they're going to spread it out over 4 years anyway. It'll be okay. It's not all going to come at once on top of you. You won't owe a ton of money. But I would now start putting aside some money. You know, if you're doing your PUP and you can afford to put maybe 20% or 30% into a credit union account or some other account where you can't touch it, that has no card attached to it. It's good advice. I'm telling you now, put a little bit aside, and then when a bill comes in at some point, you've got it tucked away there. Or even if you don't need to tuck it away, you can take it and go on holidays with it. You know, it's always good. It's a good little habit to get into. Mark Turner Smith says, do you think Mark II Leon Cooper will ever become something of a collector's car? Still hold high money for their age. They are. Coopers are going to be collectible for sure because they're rarer than GTIs, and in most cases, Coopers are faster than GTIs. I know that sounds mad, but I've done the work on that one. I know they're faster. They're better to handle as well. They'll hold on to their money for a long time. Yeah. Bob74, good name. If you were to recommend one car over the other, would you pick a 1.4 litre Sirocco or a 2 litre? Well, 2 litre. by far. 1.4 is a great engine, but a 2 litre is just a fabulous engine. But remember, the difference in insurance and tax on those two cars is going to be night and day. One will be much more expensive than the other. When it's fully first Toyota vehicle coming, I heard it soon. Fully electric Toyota vehicle. Yeah, it should be here this year, next year, at some point. They're still, they'll obviously be looking at the Lexus stuff first, because Lexus is their primo brand. So we're looking at that really first. I'm answering questions from about 20 past 2. So we're alright. We're still with you. Still catching up on you slowly but surely. Frank Metcalf says Lexus EVs are due to come out within the next year or so. Good stuff. I need to win the lotto. Says Paul. Says everybody, Paul, in fairness. Michael Joyce says, hi Bob, love the Bobcast. Listened to the first episode this morning, a walk. I learned a lot with Max Hart. Keep really good content. Yeah, that was actually really interesting. He was very, very enthusiastic and very open on everything he was talking about. How much it costs to run these cars and do stuff within the motor industry. And what like the path through to become a professional racing driver is not very straight, you know. Since then, now I've talked to Martin, who's here, Automotive 3. Martin is a tutor in Harlow College. We talked extensively about his career as well. I've had Leo Nulty on. Leo is a race driver coordinator thing. Thank you, Dermot Crooks. You're very kind for sending some money by PayPal. Leo Nulty is a promotion expert when it comes to promoting racing drivers and stuff. So again, racing driver based, but also history and proper car nut, a proper car nut. Leo Nulty, he was on as well with me. So I've had some dealers on as well. There's loads coming out. They'll come out every single Friday morning. We'll have a new Bobcast for everybody to listen to if you want to listen to it. And if you don't want to, that's okay by me. It's fine. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Like I'm just not sponsored or anything. It's just a free little chat with people while we're still in lockdown. And people are just nothing to do, like, so they just get on and start talking to me, and it's lovely. It's just a little hour's chat, and you'll find it's on Spotify, it's on Anchor, it's on iTunes, it's on I think 7 or 8 different places. It's been syndicated anyway, so it's doing well. Colin Whelan's here as well, of course I mentioned Colin already. Aidan McLaughlin, hi Bob, seen a Mercedes Sprinter work van a few years back. Where could you slide the steering wheel or the pedals over the right side depending on what side you need to work on? Love to see it as an EV. That's true. And there's actually, you know, the road sweeper trucks. You know, there's one's a big water tank on the back and they've got the little spinny wheels aside. They swap sides as well. It's quite normal for them to go from one side to the other because they sweep both sides of the road and they go on both sides of the thing. So they've been doing that for years. That's been happening. So for sure, you can definitely move these things around if you want to. Now, I don't know whether that would be prohibitively expensive to do that in a car, but you could certainly do it, I'm sure. Colin Nicholson says there's a new Volvo electric car launched on the 2nd of March. Good. That's another electric car coming to the stuff. But at the same time, when you look at what Volvo's doing right now, they're making some really, really good cars, but they seem to be very far behind on the old electric stuff. They just seem to be a little bit backwards about coming forward on it. They're leaving it to sort of Polestar stuff. And although I've sat into some of the Polestar stuff, I wouldn't be that gone on it now, I would say. It's quite plain when you see them up close. They're okay, but plain. I can't explain why I say plain, but they're not very exciting to look at. Not as exciting as a Volvo. Anyway, John Gerard, Malta. Yeah, Malta's there as well. Everybody mentioned Malta for some reason. Marcus Balsam says, what is holding back the rollout of high-speed recharge infrastructure? Nothing. Money. That's really it, Marcus. Money. We have high-speed chargers. There's one here in Portlaoise. There's 150 kilowatt. Some of the Ionity stuff goes above that. We've seen Porsche test out 500 kilowatt, 400, something extraordinarily fast. I've seen Porsche test that out, which is part of sort of Volkswagen group, and they're all sharing that technology. And then Ionity will be doing the same sort of thing. So we don't really have a problem with that. The problem is money. So a high-speed charger is 16 to 20 grand, right? Depending on where you want to put it and what it's for. And when you put it in, you lose a car park space. It's gone. The car park space is finished. That's it. So for someone like Portlaoise Plaza here, where that 150 kilowatt charger's gone in, to donate a car parking space and have to pay for the charger to put in it as well. This is the problem. And then if nobody uses it. So right now, and all the electric car drivers that are right here will tell you that most of the time they're charging at home. Most of the time they're charging offline. So they're going to somewhere at night and charging there. And it's the same for me. I have an electric car stand outside the door. We have never charged in the street. We've only charged it at home. So, and yes, I have at least 3 fast chargers in the town that I could use, and probably 5 or 6 more of this sort of slower charge, 22 kilowatt and down charge hanging around the place. I could charge any one of them, but I haven't. So if you spend 16-20 grand in putting in installation and instructions and everything else, putting in this charger, then you have to support it. People will give out when it's not working, and at the same time no one or hardly anyone's using it. It's only once in a while, or maybe 3 or 4 or 5 people a day are using it, compared to your petrol pump out the front that is absolutely lacing out petrol and diesel all the time. It's hard to justify the money end of it. So it really is a money thing that's stopping a kind of a decent infrastructure. I do find Tesla, whenever I drive a Tesla, their supercharger network are exactly where you need them. Exactly. No problem. And it's even think about it on the dashboard. You literally go home and it goes to home via supercharger. It just brings you there, and it just works very, very well. But no, I don't think any other car company is going to do what Tesla did, which is build their own infrastructure. They just couldn't deal with the normal infrastructure out there. So it really is money. Colin Whelan, an interesting point, another group. Oh yeah, we did that one. Oh my God, that's shot forward. Everybody's in the house all of a sudden. I'm sorry if I'm missing any of your questions. I am trying to keep up with you all, but you are really answering a lot of questions today. It's brilliant. I love it. Come on forward now. Where are you? King Banter, thank you very much, King Banter. That did Don Fleming. That did not pop up at the top of the screen for me. I don't know why it didn't, but thank you for the super chat. That normally pops up at the top of the screen there for me somewhere. And I see our lovely moderators are having to do a lot of work here today. Sorry, it's very popular. 275 people on today. It happens a lot. Bob, what do you think? Caddy van for a young person. I only got my license cheap on insurance. Caddy vans are insured as commercial vehicles. You won't be able to insure that as a private vehicle. That's the problem. It probably won't be cheap on insurance. Ask some of the commercial guys in how much they pay for insurance on a commercial vehicle. Most insurance companies won't give you even a quote until you have a VAT number. So you're going to be in trouble straight away, Stephen, with that. Caddy van is absolutely brilliant, but whether you're going to be able to get a caddy van and actually do it, I don't know. Sorry, I missed some. Hang on, go back up to where they are. There we are. William Byrne is here as well. Hi, William Byrne. King Banter. Almost third of the world driving the left. Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Thailand, a lot of African countries, India. Yeah, but we're in Europe. That's all I'm thinking of. Just we're in Europe. That's why I was thinking about the different side of the road. It's because it's always weird for me, who before COVID would have travelled an awful lot, and I'd drive to Dublin Airport, get into a plane, and land somewhere else and drive on. And it never occurs to me that we're on the other side of the car, the other side of the road. I never really pay attention. It's just so easy to do. It just seems like a kind of a waste of time now that we're sitting on the other side of the road, seeing as the UK is not part of it anymore. Cross 13 says you need 10 plus years of over 30% of car sales being EV before the fleet is large enough to commercially support large scale rapid charging infrastructure. Then subsidy is needed. That's true. We need a lot more electric cars on the road. Even if all electric cars today all plugged in at the same time right now on the road, it would make no difference at all to electricity. We'd have no brownouts. Right? None of that sort of stuff is realistically true, particularly because at the moment you're still talking a very small amount of cars in Ireland. It's growing, but electric cars wise still a fair few, but have no difference on electricity right now if everyone decided to plug in now today. It might have you all plugged into my house at once, but different story entirely. The government has not been spending money. That's true, Cross. The government has not been given the money properly, and deciding where it's been spent as well, what it's been spent on, what part of infrastructure is after getting it. It's only, I think the last budget, or the budget before that, they gave another, I think it was only €1 million or something to Electric Ireland to do the job of electric cars. That's a drop in the ocean of what's required. We're talking about a huge infrastructure of things that need to be done. Even just the maintenance on electric car charge points is going to cost that kind of money. Just looking after the things, make sure they're actually working. And in support structure, there's loads of times that I've gone to a charge point. And I can remember 2 occasions. One where I got a Nissan Leaf stuck on a charge point at Junction 14. It would not unplug for me. This is a while back, 5 or 6 years ago maybe. It's the old Nissan Leaf body. And I plugged it in. It seemed to charge. The lights were all going. When it came out, it hadn't charged. Nothing was after happening. And then I couldn't unplug it. It just would not unplug. And I rang the help number on the side, and the man tried to talk me through it, but he thought he reset the thing, and then he said press the emergency stop button. Done all that. Nothing worked. Unlocked and locked the car, locked and unlocked the car. And after a while, it just unplugged. I don't know what happened to it. It's just unplugged on its own. So it's a weird situation we're in right now. That doesn't really happen anymore. But then I'm not using fast charge points. I'm literally charging most of the time at home anyway. Because not most of the time, all the time at home. Even all the electric cars I have here, like the Tesla I had here recently, everything's charged at home. And I've never run out of electricity or had any problems with electricity. Even we've had a power cut since, actually. We've had a power cut here one day. It's the first power cut I ever remember in Portlaoise. We had one here the other day. And I thought, my first thought was, is the electric car charged? It was. Fortunately enough, it was like 60 kilometers and it's fine. Best site to buy cars. Depends what you want to buy. Buy used cars, you got to check them all. Most dealerships will upload to all of them, like CarZone, Done Deal, the whole lot, Cars Ireland, all that. Some of the rest of them will just upload to one of that group. Private users tend to go towards Done Deal. Classic cars tend to be towards Done Deal as well, although you will find them on Cars Ireland as well. CarZone tends to be the one that attracts most of the dealership network to it. King Banter, I haven't heard much from Frankenstein recently. I hope he didn't lose the plot and buy a V10 diesel. I don't see that. He was here a couple of weeks ago. He's been on a couple of times, yeah. He's been here, alright. Darren McKenna, there is loads of photos of Dangan H. Don't know what that is. Connor Moore, Auto Trader is the best, Bob74. Yeah, well, that's if you're buying the UK for sure, yeah. Darren McKenna says Sweden also had music contest clothes designed to remind you of the road change. I like that. Something's been deleted. The piece you had on the 530 vid about price really highlighted where with the VRT and the government tax in this country. It's crazy. Taxes here are the thing that's actually the big problem here, I think. And the biggest problem is dealerships don't pay that tax. So the only person who pays that tax is the person who buys the car, the one at the end. That's why dealerships are not up in arms over VRT over all the years. It doesn't help the dealership in turnover. They count it as turnover, but they have to pay the VRT out like anybody else. They pay it to the government. But really, it's only the end user. So if dealerships want to do something for their customers, they should be really taking on the VRT question. Really, you can see the price on that BMW prices I just put up a second ago, where it just goes out at this world prices. Hi Jack O'Connor, how are you going? Keith Colton, what do you think of the reimagined electric Corvette Stingray project company in Wicklow? I think it's going to be hugely expensive, but I think it's an interesting project. Any of that kind of stuff right now seems to get a lot of traction, so anyone who wants to do that would get a lot of traction. It's really good to see what they're trying to do. I just think we need to bring it to ordinary cars as well. I think it'd be absolutely brilliant if we had an ordinary car converted into just an electric car and you didn't even notice it. Nothing changed at all. It obviously changed the tax book and stuff, but realistically we could easily do this. It has to be. Like when I look into my engine bay of the Leon, there's more than enough room there for tons of things to go into it. Like an engine is huge. A battery powered electric vehicle motor is tiny. Like they're tiny little things, and in actual fact some of them actually go onto axles. Like the motor actually sits on top of the axle and comes as one piece. Like that's brilliant. Then you don't even have to take the engine out, you leave it in it. Darius, the Sweden also retrofitted doors on buses they sold the rest of Kenya and Pakistan. Wild. Some other interesting projects with the new Mark 1 and Mark 2 escorts that are being built by Wales. That was on Johnny Smith. Yeah, Johnny Smith did that one yesterday. I could open up some interesting custom builds. It could. And I'm totally with this. This is where it's cool. Now, if it has a bloody good engine in it and it sounds deadly when it's running on the road and you get that full noise of it, then it's kind of hard to replace that with electric car. But at the same time, if we could just replace some really cool cars out there, you'd have it done. Lovely, you know. I mean, it'd be really cool to keep my car on the road. I like my Leon. I really like driving it. But at the moment, I keep looking at it going, it's just costing me money in tax and NCTs and things. Like, imagine just changing over to electric and going into tax band A. Still do the NCTs, you would, I suppose. Mark Turner Space said, what's the UK equivalent thing to VRT? There isn't one, still tax. Someone else, for example, just VAT is all you guys pay over there. But we're really getting cars a bit cheaper, don't feel any cheaper. Cars are built more cheaply, but they're not getting any cheaper in price. Price is going up, but cars are being built cheaply. Like if you think, I'm not hammering on Tesla, but Tesla took out all of the knobs and buttons and put it in with a touchscreen, right? I don't like that. I think we should still have physical connection to things. It's always nicer. But besides that, what should happen is, because you're removing all those little knobs and dials and things that don't have to be built in little threads and all that stuff, all that mechanical stuff behind the screen, and you're putting it into the version of an iPad, the car should actually be cheaper. And that should happen to everybody. That should have happened to Peugeot as well. Their cars should have been cheaper because they moved everything to touchscreens. So why aren't they cheaper? Everything's gone up in price, not down. And yet they're building them cheaper. And like this isn't just me saying that out loud. This is just factually correct. If you think about it for a second, not having to manufacture buttons and knobs and things makes the car cheaper, but they're not cheaper, they're more expensive. And they'll frame it under, they're giving you more options, they're putting more things in the car, they're physically putting more stuff around the car, more safety equipment, more crash testing, WLTP, CO2. They hide it into it, but realistically cars are being built at the cheapest possible option, which is to just put in a big dashboard and put a big touchpad in the middle of that. There's your lot. No more buttons, no more speedos, no more readouts, nothing. And yet the car is still very expensive. Cathal Gilmore, hi Bob, great hacks, windows and shortcuts for ID3, great day in Belfast. Great hacks, windows and shortcuts for ID. Oh, the thing, the little dotty thing on the ID3, yeah, pretty cool, right? Way too expensive to insure EVs. There is a couple of EV insurance, well, they're brokers that have set up as EV only insurance, but any insurance company will insure an EV, so ring around to all of them and get the cheapest option. I had no problem insuring my MG out there, and I took the insurance on that. My insurance went up by €40 to insure a brand new car from a 2006 to a 2020. It cost me 40 quid to insure EVs. It wasn't expensive for insurance on my EV anyway. Jim Shed is here. Hi Bob, today is Monday, not Sunday. Is it? I listen to the chat every Monday while driving the coach. Good man. From Dublin to non-stop to Waterford. It's this 2.5 hour trip and it fills the time brilliantly and deadly. That's gas. I love how people listen to things. I regularly get messages, comments, like 4 or 5 days or even weeks afterwards as people log on and see the Sunday service, or they're out on a run, because people are paying, what's happening now, people are paying Prime subscription on YouTube. And so they can play it anywhere. They can even download it and walk away and keep it there. So they can play it with the screen off as well. So with that, you can put it on as a vocal thing, put it in your pocket, put your headphones on, and forget about the screen. It's not on. It's just playing the audio in the background. So that's what happens with Prime membership. Boris Johnson is in the chat. Car guys, you'd like me to make no speed limit a bit of the M1 and pay 5 quid? I like that idea of Boris Johnson being in my chat. I really wish it was, though. That's the only thing. It would be nice if it actually was. You could actually have a debate with Boris Johnson. Thomas O'Reilly half asked the question, but then pressed return by mistake. I ended up saying, well, Bob, thinking of. Anyway, next line down. Thinking of selling my 2011 Golf as I lost my job due to COVID and buying an 0506 hatchback Corolla 1.4 Focus. Focus, I'm thinking, for thoughts. Corolla's good. No problem with Corollas. I don't know about buying an 05 or 06 hatchback 1.4. I'd go with Corolla. If you're looking at something that old, I'd go with something that's actually pretty reliable as well, which would be the Corolla. Ford Focus and all that, older ones, they don't stand up very well unless they've been treated very well over their life. Corollas will put up with all kinds of punishment. Sorry to hear your job. That is happening. I heard a story this morning as well of a young man who was doing very, very well for himself, family, kids, the whole show, bought himself a BMW M4 here in Ireland. And then COVID put a torpedo into the whole thing, and his business is gone, his job is gone, his wife has left him, and he's stuck with a car, and he can't sell it. Because nobody wants to buy an M4 at the moment, and nobody wants to replace the amount of money the car is actually worth. You know what I mean? It's not that nobody wants to buy it, just nobody wants to pay the money he's looking for it. So he's kind of stuck with an M4. That's not a good place to be, really. So it's hard to deal with that sort of stuff. You're not alone out there, Thomas. Jim Shed, I enjoyed the review of the Model 3 despite the manufacturing flaws. It still seems the best selling EV last year. Is it the badge? It's the status. It's like Apple. I think Tesla's like Apple. I think to some degree they follow like a sort of a Pied Piper approach. But now at the same time, Tesla is very, very good at what it does. The car's range is unquestionably good. And like the whole, it just works. It just does things. I kind of get stuck on the press cars because it gets stuck with the little card. But if you have the app, and I've seen people use the app as well, even Cross 13 here has used the app in front of me as well. You can see the car is so well connected up with everything to do with you on the app. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. And actually, if you watch that video, there's a good description from Cross 13 on it of how he's integrated the car into his house as well as the apps and things on your phone. So the connectivity of Tesla, the software behind Tesla is second to none. They don't drive maybe as good as some of the more experienced car makers out there. And I think that will be their shortcoming eventually when Audi and all those kind of groups really get up to speed on what they're doing. And you've seen the Audi, e-tron GT. That's a phenomenal looking machine. Like, that really looks good. But that's going to be at the top end of the market, mind you. But it still looks great. Pentagram Motorsport says surely there will be kits that will either replace a bell housing with a hybrid drive or entire engine with motor battery pack. That would be brilliant. And I think that's, if you were looking at something, if anyone's looking at something in the business sense, that's, I'm telling you, there's money to be made in that sort of thing. Looking at a sort of a universally fitting motor battery pack thing for short range driving in an old fashioned car. I mean, my Leon is a front wheel drive layout, right? So all of the power is right down around the front of the car. Now there has to be a way of popping the engine out and taking off the front axle and replacing the whole thing with the battery unit and doing it cost effectively. There has to be a way of doing it. Has to be. So you can just have that conversion done and finished. Batteries are still very expensive. Steve, you're dead right. He said EV conversions are done all over the world. They're great, but still expensive due to batteries. Batteries are just, we haven't had them very long. So I suppose there is a certain element of, there's just not many second-hand batteries out there. And the ones that are being recycled are in huge need. People are desiring them all the time. Hitstar says, I was in Sweden and we changed driving size. Only praying I saw the next day was a car with tram on rails. Martin Smith says, when my daily 2010 Seat Leon Sport 1.4 TSI ever dies, it's only done 62,000 miles. It'd be fun to turn it into an electric project, but as you said, Bob, it has to be cost effective. There's no point, otherwise you just end up spending a ton of money on a car that's not going to do what you want it to do. And it'll now be not worth anything because you've taken out all of the petrol engines gone out of it as well. So everything has to be relative. But if we could do it at a reasonable cost, even if the range of the car was like 150 kilometers or 100 kilometers, even at that range, you could still be quite smart with the car as a secondary car. You know what I mean? Dynamic frame bobsleigh. No snow in Scotland as long last post-lockdown with people possibly working from home. So less money's been done. Will people keep cars longer when they buy older luxury cars? Thoughts? You know what? I see people, and I get regular messages now all over the place of people going, I don't want my car anymore. I haven't driven the thing in 6 months. I have to go out and start it every once in a while. The battery's gone flat and the tyres are deflated. No, because an unused car just does nothing but devalue. That's all that happens to it. Same for electric cars. They just do nothing. They just sit there and do nothing. So people are now starting to look at their cars and go, do I really need a car? Will I ever be going back to work? And that's a question we're going to answer in the very near future about going back to the office. Those commuter people who will be commuting long range in the morning, starting their morning maybe at 6 a.m, getting into a car outside the door and driving to Dublin to go to work, or driving to Sandyford, or driving to wherever, City West or somewhere, and they're now looking at the car going, I've done my whole year's work from home and never went near an office. We've done it all on Zoom, so why do we need an office? I'm sure that must be on people's minds at this stage. It has to be out there. So whether we actually hold on to those cars or not, I don't know. And I think the donkey cars, what I call them, so not naming any brands, but they're the people who don't care about cars. They just buy something because they need it to drive to work. They don't look after it. A light comes on the dashboard, it goes into a dealership, they don't even think about it. That's a donkey car. Tends not to be a good car. It tends to be just an ordinary sort of diesel or petrol yoke, just a runabout. Unloved, unwashed, untreated, that kind of yoke. That's the one that actually needs to go away. That's the problem one. And that can be converted into electric cars, or we just not replace them. Just get on with the scooters, get on with the small short range stuff, and just go on with that. That would be another way over too. Horology blog is here as well. What happened to the Highland cars like M4, RS6 or AMGs or even Bentleys after Brexit taxes? They're not affordable anymore. So if you want to import a used car that's been first registered on the other island, right? Not in Northern Ireland, this doesn't count, but on the UK Ireland, then you get a 10% tax on top of the VAT. So VAT goes on VRT and 10% tax on that. And I discovered the other day that they actually charge 10%. The 10% tax that's on it has VAT applied to that as well. So it's 10% plus VAT. So it's the price of the car plus the VAT plus the VRT plus 10% plus 10% plus VAT on top of the 10%. It's going to make importing cars from the UK insanely expensive. Just ridiculously. No one's going to be able to afford an M4, RS6 or AMGs or Bentleys or any of those sort of cars unless they've been first registered in Northern Ireland, where it's the only place we can get it that doesn't have the 10% import tax and VAT is on. It's going to make them expensive. Very expensive. Martu Cooper, alternative Martu, I don't know who you're answering there. Boris Johnson says, what does everybody think about Fiat 500 drivers? I like them. They're lovely people usually. They're usually quite pleasant to deal with. It's alright. Captain Troopball is in the chat as well. Podcast fantastic, Bob. Really good content. It's lovely. It's lovely chat. It's nice and relaxing. It's what I wanted to do in the first place, was not have something that is like in your face energy flying along. I want to make it about other people. Just see what people are doing. That's why I made the tagline of the cast is people and what drives them. So it's not necessarily about their cars. There's very little car talk in it, if I'm honest with you. It's mostly about the person in the car or the person in the life. and just having a chat with them, and that's kind of where I wanted that to be. So that's going to stick like that. I've got at least 6 episodes done now, with at least another 5 more to shoot. I was going to say shoot, which is a very video thing, but to record at some point. I'm trying to save some that we actually get off lockdown, that I can go and face to face meet somebody for it. It'd be brilliant. I'd actually love to meet somebody. It's weird when you meet someone how exciting that is. Do you know what I mean? When you actually see somebody in the street or a petrol station or something, you kind of go, hey, how's it going? And suddenly it's like a human being that you haven't seen in 12 months. Like there's people I haven't seen for 12 months. I've seen them, or I've texted them, or I've talked to them on the phone, but I haven't physically seen them. And there would have been people that I would have seen really regularly. Darren McKenna says, also interesting enough, all of the post vans VW Caddy in Sweden are right-hand drive. Wonder why they are. Edgy Biker Cop. I hear blue hydrogen's on the way. CO2 free. Cheers, Bob, from Lee. I don't know. Hydrogen is going to be a dodgy one. I really think, like, hydrogen will get investment, but I'm just not sure whether we could ever have enough both hydrogen or enough efficiency from the hydrogen systems to be able to actually do anything on the road with them in a private car sense. Here's my wife, another cup of coffee. Thank you. How's things? How was your run?
Lovely.
She was out running. I'm back from a run as well. She was out running after me. See? Very fit people. Actually, I'm not very fit, to be honest with you, but I can run. And there's nothing worse than being in a half marathon race and you're trotting along the road and some really big chunky guy goes running by you like you're standing still. It's happened to me many times. You're going, man, I'm doing well, I'm doing it. And you go, what the? Guy goes just sailing by you. Hurry up. It's experience, really. What are your thoughts on Ineos Grenadier? It's a weird name, isn't it? Ineos Grenadier. I do like it. Hang on, I'm just going to get a picture of that. Some people won't know what that looks like. So we get a picture up to make sure you know what it looks like. That's actually, they're pretty good pictures. Hold on, so we're going to flick over to that. There we go. That's the Ineos Grenadier. So meant to look like a new Defender. But it's electric, fully electric. So it's quite a cool looking car, right? It's not a Defender though, but it is quite a cool looking car. That's it up there, big 4x4 off-road yoke. I forget what the weight of that is, but I know it's quite heavy. It's meant to come out in like 2022, give or take, as a car you can buy and own and drive and stuff. I love the look of it. I think it's really cool, but I do love the look of those kind of cars anyway. I think they're super cool. There is a fella standing in front of what is not an Ineos Grenadier. That is his inspiration for the Grenadier. That is the old Defender. You can see the pop-out doors. You can take all those doors off and all that sort of stuff. But it's really cool. But I like the car. I like the idea of the car. Whether we need it or not, I mean, let's be serious. If we're looking to save the environment, we probably don't need that car. If you're looking for the environmental sense of things, that's probably not what we're looking for, really. But it's a cool looking car, though. 274 watts, only 90 likes. Was there only? There's 110 now. It's 112 now. So we're doing well. We're okay. The price of Ionity drive me nuts. EU funds to help set up the network. They can still have their multi-tier prices. Only use them once to try a 100 kilowatt charge. The price now. Another question, boys, that also electric people and all of the electric guys out there should be asking right now is how come a petrol station can have the price of petrol and diesel displayed out the front by law, displayed out the front, but they don't display the price of electricity anywhere on the electric charge point. And so I know it's to do with apps, and I know it depends on who you signed up with, and you are aware of how much you're going to spend and stuff. But realistically, some people are buying electric cars right now. They're going to a charge point and they're signing up on the spot, looking at the charge point in front of them. We should have some sort of legislation that would affect the price of electricity to cause and to stimulate a bit of competition as well. We should have the price of electricity on the charge point. It should be there without a shadow of a doubt. It's not fair on people to rock up and not know how much they're going to pay for something. And on top of that, there is a big case for putting a bloody roof over a charge point. Like, really, this is 2021. Could we not have roofs over the charge point when you're plugging in and it's raining on you? This is Ireland. Sometimes it rains in your ear here. It's raining from the side. And you still need a charger. Stand there doing this, plugging in, trying to put a big electric charge thing into the front of your car. It's just not right either. And my third point on that is we should be able to pay from an app on our phone. We should be able to pay from Apple Pay, from Garmin Pay. Garmin has a pay system. There's TSB now do pay systems. There's Revolut. There's all of these ways of paying without touching anything and without sending a bill to your house. So I want to see a charge come up on the screen. This is how much you owe. Tap, go. And I know that's coming, but it should be here. This is 2021. It should be done by now. It should be finished. This is just merely an electronic means of payment. VU Bear, how are you going? I hope you're doing well too. Daza, COVID-19 will spell the end of many car dealerships. I don't know. That's hard. That's a hard one to deal with. I spoke to a number of car dealerships over the lockdown. A lot of them are actually quite happy because there's a lot of people sitting at home getting a COVID payment and with nothing to spend it on. So they reckon there's going to be a little burgeoning idea of people wanting to buy something good. I don't know if that's true or not. Really, I think people are very nervous about the future, but what's going to happen next? Are we going to have another COVID, a Brazilian version that's come into the country? So that's going to change things again. So who knows what's going to happen next? It's very hard to say where we're going to go. But hopefully, sales, I think, of car dealerships, the sales room or the kind of bricks and mortar, big glass fronted thing, I think that might kind of go. And we might transfer into what kind of Tesla offer, which is sort of an experiential thing. You come in, you sit and talk and chat and look and touch and feel, and then you're gone. You might have a little test drive just to convince you. But I see like the vast majority of Teslas are sold online. Like look at the pre-orders for the big truck thing. That's already there. Model Y is already there. It's been ordered. Like people are just ordering these cars. And I think that's kind of the way sales will go eventually. That everybody will do that. Volkswagen did ID3, ID4, and probably will do with ID5. Skoda's going to has done the same thing already as well. I mean, Skoda's allotment for the Enyaq is sold out in Ireland already. So no one's driven it. Like it hasn't been here. It's still not here. We're still waiting for it to arrive. And yet people are buying them already. So if that's the future, that's up to dealerships to deal with. I think that's what we have to be dealing with right now. Used car maybe differently right now. People still want to go and touch and feel a used car for sure. That may change things. Oh my God, we're at 20 past 3 already. And it is, I'm answering questions from around 3 o'clock. Smash the like button. You're dead right there, Stephen Godfrey. Thank you very much. Niall Burke. I was in the Hermitage Clinic last week. 4 charging spaces with 3 Teslas charging in the Leaf. Obviously owned by doctors who park there to charging all day. Yes, there is a problem with the charging thing. I pointed out the same thing here in Portlaoise. We have 2 22 kilowatt charge points outside the train station. The same 2 cars, pretty much the same 2 cars, a Hyundai and a Nissan Leaf. Pull in there every day and they're there all day. Sometimes you can clearly see that someone has just stretched the cable across but it's not actually plugged into the car, and you know, there's just all this nonsense that's going on the outside of it, because the overstay thing only kicks in when you're plugged in. If you're not plugged in, you're not going to get that charge. So you can just leave the car parked there. So it is definitely happening. And people are not prepared. Busy professionals are not prepared to sit around for 40 minutes or 45 minutes charging their car when they have a guaranteed parking space and it's right outside the front of their building, and you just plug their car in and walk off and leave it there and there's no charge for them. So like charging a car is cheaper than parking the car. So this is happening. That's just a moral move, and that's also down to the fact, I still come back to the point, and I've said this for at least 2 years here, that we need to have charge points everywhere. The more single 22 kilowatt charge points we have around the country in all car parks everywhere, the more common it is, the easier it'll be as a transition. It really is the cart before the horse. At the moment we're trying to sell a pile of cars and we don't have the infrastructure for them. It's not up to speed. It's nearly there, but it's definitely not up to speed. So if we just put little charge points everywhere, even 7.5 kilowatt charge points, multiple. You should go into IKEA and see 50, 60, 70 of these charge points everywhere. It shouldn't be a special parking space. We do not need green plates. We do not need special parking spaces. We do not need any of those things. We just need charge points where we need them. That's it, in car parks. Steve McCormick says it would also be good PR for EU supporting us to change left-hand drive. It would, yeah. Plus we'd be more EU style as well. Steve Jordan, if you wanted to convert a classic car to electric, what car would you pick? My own Leon. That's it. The most basic, ordinary, straightforward cars in the world should be electric. And leave the performance things like the Jaguar E-Types, all those kind of cars, leave them to petrol and diesel, because there's so few of them anyway. Like there's only a handful of them. How many of those Corvettes are in Ireland? 1, 2 maybe at most. So, like, converting them over to electric is a lovely thing for gathering a headline, but you're really not really doing a whole lot for the performance of the car. David G. Bob, regarding the UK no longer be part of the single market, it's a temporary state of affairs. The Trump ban has lasted 4. I don't know if it's going to be a temporary thing, single market. We need to prepare for it to be not temporary. God knows what's going to happen next. The world is in a complete flux and change of everything. We're changing energy, changing governments, changing structures, changing laws, rules, everything's changing. And at some point, your own country has to make a decision to suit itself. And I don't mean this about changing side of the roads, but sometimes a country has to look inwards before it looks outwards to see what's going to happen to our nearest neighbours. And although the UK is our nearest neighbours, our biggest trading partners, in the last 12 months that is completely flipped on its head. Ireland is not a huge trading partner within the UK as it used to be over the last few years. We've now found sources for pretty much everything that isn't here. Tons and tons and tons of stuff has been changed over since then. So we need to start really looking after one another and figuring out what we're going to do. So I don't know how much the Trump madness lasted, but like Trump did last for a long time in office. He nearly made it in as the second term. Boris Johnson's still in there as well, who would have been compared to Trump over the years too. So we just don't know where that's going to go from there on it. And how much inward looking that the UK will probably do over time too as well. I'd love a 1979 Celica stick electric motor, and says Cameron. Yeah, that'd be good. See, the engine wasn't great, and lovely looking car, but the engine wasn't brilliant in it. So, yeah, for sure. Steve McCormick says EV conversions are prolific. Look at Evil Bomb to see the worldwide catalogue of conversions. Big old cars are great candidates. My nephew in Athlone converted a Jag for his college project. I think I know who your nephew is in Athlone for the college project. I think I know what that Jag is. That was going to be a racing Jag, I think, at one point. I was meant to actually go down and see that, but I never got to go because of COVID. Darn. Or was that somewhere in Dublin? I can't remember. But it's certainly, definitely going to be possible. Automotive says the worst claim is not fitting a spare wheel, says manufacturer, yet they try to sell it as if they're saving weight, better for the economy. It probably saves me 0.0001 miles per gallon carrying a spare. I know, yeah. There's so much of that goes on. It's just not fair on people. They do something and they hide it under some sort of PR marketing headline. You know the one I'm talking about, where they go, yes, we're taking this out of the car, but it's a bit like the Apple thing that they did recently, where they're not supplying the plug top. They give you the cable for the thing you're buying, but not the plug top to plug it into the wall. And we know that they're saving money, but they're saying that they're saving the environment, because there's loads of these plug tops around. They don't want to make any more of them. That's what's going on. But the price of the phone didn't go down, right? The price is still the same. That didn't change. And yet they're putting less in the box. It's lovely, and people are buying into it. And it's true. I have a pile of Apple chargers around the house as well. Old ones, flat little 1.5 watt versions and 5 watt versions and things off iPads and all sorts of jokes lying around. But you still think, hang on a second, this isn't right. And actually, if you want to look up a YouTube channel, Mr. Who's the Boss is a good YouTube channel for tech stuff. And that's something I do put a lot of emphasis on when I'm looking at. He made a really valid point about those chargers in the Apple. It's worth a watch. Go back and look at what he said about the Apple charger, about companies not, because everyone's doing it now. All of those companies remove the chargers out of them, saying there's plenty of chargers out, you can buy them anyway. They're selling them as an optional extra now. But if you look at his video, he explains why this is actually worse for the environment than putting them in. Keith Colton says, I have a T25 VW bus. It will go to EV in the next couple of years, and the Hillman Imp, oh wow, an Imp for a restaurant, I would say, is ice, but it's all about the engine. Yeah, it is. Hillman Imp's a gorgeous car, I have to say. That's lovely. Dean McCann, good man, Bib. It's alright, you can call me Bib if you want. I do that as well, because I and O is right beside you on the keyboard. Hairbra says, 10 years ago, green people said to us to buy diesels. Now they want to get rid of them because they're dirty. When the diesels are gone, they will jump into the next thing. It's only a political game. There is some truth to the political spectrum of things. What happens is people like the Green Party or someone else will listen to the experts and will think whatever is said to them is the right thing, and they will say this is what we should do, and they're making good judgment calls at the moment. And that's true, because I did a documentary where it showed you what happened with the Greens of the time and how quick they flip-flopped and how much congratulations they gave to the Irish people for choosing low CO2 diesels. Obviously, some diesel companies or some car companies were lying about how clean the diesels actually were, and now it's all come out with Dieselgate and all since then. But realistically, this could happen again. Of course it could. Now, electric, there's enough eyeballs on electric to know it is fairly clean, and it is coming up okay. It's still not without sin, for sure. Electric cars are not without, they're not like the angelical save the earth and save the environment things that people make them out to be, but they're certainly a good investment at the moment, and far cleaner than petrol and diesel. Patrick Walter, imagine if Tesla and Apple collaborated. Yeah, well, Tesla was going off there with Hyundai for a bit. They were holding hands, but they never went to second base, boys. Tesla and Apple and Hyundai fell out over the whole thing. Well, more Hyundai fell out. I think Hyundai was afraid of becoming one of the Apple massive. You know what I mean? losing their brand a little bit into the Apple network. I would suggest that Apple should probably get with Tesla, but I don't think they will. I think that's too much of a... They're too like each other. The Tesla environment and group is a bit too much like the Apple environment to get on in that space. I think Apple would be better off signing up with someone like Jaguar, or signing up with someone like Mercedes, or someone who could make a luxury car and keep it electric, and at the same time integrate the Apple system into it, or the Apple feeling to it, because it is kind of a feeling. You have to get a good car first. The electric bit and all the software comes secondary to that, but if the car is good, it's alright. Paul says, hi Bob, do you know of any faults on Lexus LS 300H27? It's a Lexus, Paul. There'll be no faults on Lexus. Lexus just go forever. The only reason anyone ever gets rid of a Lexus is because it's 10 years old, they just want a different car. And then just buy another Lexus. That's what happens to Lexus. They're totally like clocks. There's no faults in them yokes. You can bring it to a Lexus dealership and they will test the battery as well. So to make sure the battery still holds its full charge, or at least holds the maximum charge that it would have had at the time. But there is a little thing on the dashboard that does that too. Tells you what's left of it. There'd be no problems with that Lexus. If there's something wrong with it, it would make headline news, because Lexus are just so reliable. Martin Smith said, mid to late 2000s there was a brilliant UK company doing electric car conversions. Seems to have gone. They were at Castle Combe racetrack. The demo car was a 2001 Polo GTI. Mine was fast. Could never do that to my 2001. He is a Polo GTI as well. Collectible from restoration firm. Tis, yeah. And there's a few. There was a few over all the years. I can still remember TV programs on TV in the kind of repair systems that people used to be doing out there as well. Like, they're totally in it. Like, it's definitely got to be there somewhere. But the problem is just the price of batteries. Batteries are really expensive, as are the motors and the axles, and everything's got a price. When you're starting with what probably is a 500 to €1,000 car, and you're going to put another $3,000 into it, it's never going to be worth 4 or 5 grand as an electric car. You know what I mean? Hairbra says, if the green people only cared about the environment, they would talk about CO2 of EV and battery production, but they're not touching that. It's a game. A poor diesel's only a scapegoat. Well, they do address the CO2 EV. I would go against you a little bit on that one, in that it has been discussed about the CO2 of EV production. They don't produce as much CO2 to produce an EV as people are making out that they are, but it does very much depend on how you measure the CO2 emissions. If you look at the CO2 emissions created by creating any car is high. Any car, no matter diesel or petrol or electric or anything else, just producing new things causes a huge amount of CO2 anyway. But electric cars don't produce any more CO2 than a petrol or diesel. It could be argued that they're also less. Diesels were always filthy, only bureaucrats pushed it corruptly. Correct, diesels have always been filthy. You have to remember that Volkswagen and many other car companies employ people directly to work and advise the EU on the future of transport. There is a fella in the VW employ who works in Brussels. Like, that's where he works, in the headquarters of the EU, advising them about petrol and diesel. So that's why we're moving through this very, very slowly. That we still need to incentivize people away from diesel, because right now diesel is heavily incentivized by governments. Governments already allow companies to claim back the VAT on purchasing diesel at the pumps. And you can write off diesel purchases in vans and things. But you can't do any of that with electric. It is changing, it's on the way, but it's not changing very fast. Really, we should be looking at the EU to try and push those rules forward very quickly. CMS says, my company closed half their offices and I'm now working from home for almost a year. Realistically, we don't need 2 cars anymore, and definitely not 2 big newish ones. Think about that now when you're thinking about your cars, lads. This is what I'm talking about. This is the decisions that are being made. Some of these decisions are being made for you. So a company will say, listen, we're done. We're just not going to open these offices anymore. We don't need them. You're completely set up at home, and we're going to fund you to stay at home. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, whatever it is, and the deal is being done. So people really at this stage are looking at their own situation and go, I really need a car now. Could I not have just an electric scooter? I know my neighbour not so far away from here, who I've spoken to before, she changed her car entirely for an electric scooter, even though it's illegal on the road. She actually changed it for a Xiaomi scooter, same one that Cross brought down to me here one day. A very quick little Xiaomi scooter. She's changed over completely from that, got rid of the car. She's saving a fortune. She wouldn't go electric. No interest. She goes to and from work every day. She picks up her scooter, walks in the back and puts it into the cloakroom. That's her transport for the day. And they're waterproof. Like, they're perfectly able to go on in any sort of condition, apart from snow. They're not good in snow and ice because of low centre of gravity. So not great on air, but everything else is good. Michael says, sorry for being late. No problem, you're all right. Quick question. Yeah, I saw width measured by one from mid of the tyre to the mid of the tyre as a body width with mirrors folded, while the only important one is on the road setup, mirrors unfolded from end to end. What is the purpose of so many measurements? Cars are measured in a bazillion ways, but some of them just want to measure wheelbase, which would be where the wheelbase part comes in. That's from the centre of a hub to a centre of a hub, which is where it's meant to be. But some people will actually measure from the edge of the tyre to the edge of the tyre, lengthways of the car. Widthways of the car is the same problem. They want to know the wheelbase, and it comes under that sort of registration. So some countries tax cars under width. That's the other part of that. So there's excess tax for cars that are over width. And so a lot of them will take away the wing mirrors off it. But WLTP has changed that. So WLTP now makes up the difference between the whole lot of that. So we will have standard measurement across, but your unique car is standardly measured across it. And you're not allowed to remove wing mirrors for anything anymore. You can't cheat anymore, really. Captain Jude Paul says, is Clarkson or Ben the Stig Collins going to be on the podcast? I haven't asked either of them yet. Clarkson was sick, he got COVID, but he's back now, I think. And I didn't ask Ben Collins at all. I haven't seen or heard from Ben Collins in God knows how long, so I don't really ask them. It's more ordinary people that I'm looking for at the moment for the first season anyway, because it really is ordinary people and what drives them. So more normal people and what's in their mind about things. People who have a story to tell, race drivers, just the people that don't. Because I think what happens to a lot of podcasts is, like if you log on to some of them, you'll see like Adam Buxton. And someone will come on and go, thanks very much for having me on the podcast. Yeah, I was on your podcast a few weeks ago and that was pretty good. So they're just doing this swap over and back, this famous person doing a tour of podcasts. And I didn't really want it to turn out, because someone would want to come and sell a book or something, you know. It's like, can we not just talk about your cars? Well, I have this book that I wrote, which is all about cars. Or, you know, there'll be always some sort of sales end. So the people who've asked so far, people are not really selling anything. So that's good. But we'll see in the second season, maybe we'll see what happens then. Irish Runner says we need more incentives for EV adoption. Free solar panels would be class. That would be really class, in fairness. And I know there's an argument against solar panels in Ireland, whether you'll actually get the benefit here, because 90% of the year is grey sky, like, which is not efficient solar panel work. But realistically, other incentives that takes a bill off you is what should be incentivised, rather than giving a grant to the dealership or to the car company. Giving a grant for someone, I mean, taking that $5,000 grant on electric cars and saying you can spread that across solar panels and cars, and you know what I mean, making something that is unique, a unique package for Ireland would be very smart. But nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to deal with that. We don't even know when that $5,000 grant is going to go away. And it will eventually, obviously. Sooner or later they're going to go, well, look, we can't keep giving you $5,000 for your cars. It's sure, off you go, like. So eventually that's going to go away. That'll be another incentive gone. And according to the managing director, was it Peugeot, I think he said, that once the government stops sending grants out for electric cars, sales fall off a cliff. That's what he said. That was a very insightful thing to think about. So in other words, just because they're granted, people are buying them. As soon as the grant's gone, they don't want to buy them anymore. Tom H says, your thoughts on a BMW 330e versus Tesla Model 3, given the infrastructure will great no home charging. The problem is with no home charging, you're absolutely snookered on electric cars. If you can't charge at home, you're at nothing. You really are at nothing, because you're going to spend so much between parking and charging. You're going to spend so much on the streets having to charge either of those cars. They won't be economically viable for you at all, especially the Tesla. Whatever about the BMW 3, at least that's a hybrid. You're still going to pay for petrol. But realistically, Model 3 or any of that Tesla thing will require a home charging unit. And if you don't put it in, you're just going to spend money on it and it won't be worth it. You'll never receive it back. The king of saving money with electric cars is to charge at home. The difference between the two would be, even at a decent rate, I think I pay 11 cents per kilowatt year, which means I charge a car for about €4, give or take, €4-ish for about 250-300 kilometers range, which means we're spending about a tenner a month on an electric car here. That's it. That's because do it at home. But if you charge that in the street, it's 28 cents on a slower charge. It's up to 70 something cents on fast charges here and there, 50 anyway. So it's very expensive on the streets. If you were to charge permanently at fast charging points, you'd spend nearly as much as diesels. So it's just not worth it. Neither of those cars are going to suit you without having a home charge unit. The Flied Flyer, they can display all sorts of things on public charge, but they can't disclose kilowatt price. I know that's the problem. We should rock up to a fast charge point or any charge point on the street and the little screen in front of it just goes, it's going to cost you 22 cents per kilowatt hour here. So then you make up your own mind what you're going to. That's it. It's not has to display. It doesn't have to display left open, right open, or any of that. None of that stuff. Just 22 kilowatt per charge or whatever it is. Just so you can sit up with your calculator and work out how much you're going to need. Because otherwise you're plugging in, you're heading off, or you're staying there, or whatever you're doing. You're doing a charge up, and then you come back and unplug and put it in, and you don't know how much you spend until it pops up on your bill at home. Stuart Kerr, is it possible to hit the like button when watching on TV? No, it's not, and I don't know why Google didn't do that. If you cast a Google video onto your TV using Chromecast, there is no like button. It all disappears. Everything does. If you're watching through Amazon Fire Sticky thing that comes with the YouTube built in, you can just scroll down a little bit. It's there, right? As Cross says there to you as well, Tom H, if you don't have a home charger, you shouldn't be buying either. Honest to God, no point in charging an electric car unless you have a home charger. It's the only way to make money. It's the only way to make them efficient as well. Otherwise, you're just hunting for electricity all the time. I know, because when electric cars started in this country, ESB gave me a charger, which is 3.3, the older one. It's actually still there. If anybody wants a 3.3 charger, I have one. But the home charger I had at the time was one of the very few journalists to get one. And I remember other journalists going, this is electric cars. No point in having an electric car. I can't use one. I can't charge one. And then they go home thinking it's okay now because they can do 150 kilometres and there's still no charger at home. And you get tweets from them in the middle of the night going, I had to hunt down a charge point, sit here parking all night long and no charge point home. And you're going, why did you take an electric car and charge when you don't have a home charger? Stupid. Most Teslas are sold via World of Fanboys and were discount referral code. That Bjorn in Norway has won about 6 Teslas via his referral code. I know, yeah, you can do referral codes for sure. It's an incentive for people to buy electric cars. You can't blame the guy for throwing them out. It's definitely there. That's how they make money. That's how they can have the fanboy base, and that's how they can say whatever they want to say, and people are still making money out of it, and it's not really declarable. Realistically, actually under rules and regulations on YouTube, if you're going to have an affiliate link, you're supposed to say it's an affiliate link every single time, and you make money out of it. And the hashtag ad stuff has to come up as well. It's a kind of a dodgy, very murky space that most of these referral code things live in. I don't really use referral codes, but there is some on the streamer links thing. I try not to as much as I possibly can, but a lot of things can't be bought out here. EVs are a lot less maintenance. Kind of, Steve. Kind of, but they still have to go for a yearly checkup. Like Nissan charge about 70 or 80 quid a year for a yearly checkup, even if there's no servicing being done. A major service on a Nissan Leaf is €160, which is the same price as a petrol or diesel car, more or less. Diesel a little bit more expensive than that, but petrol would be about the same. So there's not really that much more maintenance unless you drive them in a certain way. Like the way I found with the MG that I have, which is very good, I have to say. I've no real complaints with that car. I find I drive on level 3 and I just take my foot off the accelerator pedal. That's how I drive. I don't really touch the brakes. You can actually sometimes hear the brakes grind a little bit because I haven't pressed them in a while. Google reviewer says yes we should. Okay, Brian Coyle says, have you saw Hatton Patton's EV rally car? Maybe interested to have a look at. Patton Rally Sports channel. I'll have a look at that after. Yeah, sure. Steve McCormick says it was a stock car in that loan, correct? I was thinking that. Yeah, someone took an ordinary car and just turned it into another car. I'm at 324, so I'm starting to catch up with these now. Keep going though, you're alright. Plenty of time. Speaking of Hillman Imps, I just saw an NSU Prince on EV album. Looks electric. I'll just show you. But NSU is the beginning of Audi. Before Audi got into Audi. These were Audis. Oh no, wait no. That's not what I was thinking of. What was I thinking of? I thought it was NSU. Anyway, wait no. We'll come back in a minute. It was old Audis that were called something else. This is the NSU Prince, which is this one. No, wait no. That'll be more like what we're looking at. That's a restoration one. God almighty is a weird car. But look under just a little peep in there and you see there's just modern shocks in there. That looks really modern there. But look at that one. Love those cars. God, they look great, don't they? Classic restorable things. Beautiful looking yoke. That is also an NSU, but it's not the one we're talking about. This is the one we're talking about. It's that kind of car. Super looking, weird looking, strange thing. 4 headlights on some of them, 2 headlights on others, like that one. There's the 4 headlight one. That's the 1000. Always people in sunglasses at some sort of thing in the background. What was the old Audi? What was the old Audis called? I thought it was NSU. Maybe I'm just baffling myself now. Maybe I should get on with it. Any electrician fit a charger at home? anyone can really fit a charger. No, the only one that I would recommend is the only one I know, which is Des Mulhare Electrical. He fitted my chargers, and I've had no problem with them. They've been very good. Worked every time. But yes, technically you can fit chargers at home, but there's a lot to it. Like, we have an electric shower here, so we had to get a special box that would cut in. So if we were charging the car and we turned on the electric shower at the same time, it would cut off the charge to the car. So the electric shower would go on, so you wouldn't overload the whole system. Because electric cars, although very economical, do take a big chunk of electricity to run. So it's worth investing and make sure you got the right electrician to do it. And I would only advise you to use a qualified electrician who has a bit of a reputation in it. Don't just use any old electrician. Use someone who knows what they're doing. Dan Whelan says, I think a BMW plus Apple originally, but Apple teamed up with Hyundai. Now, Hyundai dumped that idea. Hyundai went, nah, don't want to do it. And I'd say they would have lost their brand to some degree. You would lose a little bit of your brand over to Apple, particularly if Apple sat down at the table with you and said, this is how it's going to be. We want the car this way. What happens then when Hyundai engineers who know how cars run kind of go, hang on a second, that's how it works. Patrick Walsh, if Apple hook up with someone for a card and have a unique charge, always breaks. Yeah, I know that. Look at there's a piece of duct tape holding my Apple charger together. That's exactly what would happen to the cable in your boot of your car. Definitely. Where was it there? Steve McCormick, thanks Dan. You're asking questions. John Webster, Bob, do you think biodiesel and petrol could be long-term answer? There's a lot of cash being put into the tech, but whisper quietly, apparently the Nazis made it. Sorry if you mentioned Nazis. That's okay, you're allowed to mention Nazis. They're not illegal. Biodiesel or diesel itself, this semi-synthetic diesel and all that kind of stuff, there's nothing really bio about diesel. If you want to save CO2 and it burns, you're not going to save CO2. That's how that. If you set fire to it in any way, shape or form, you create CO2. That's just thermodynamics. That's how that works. So it has to happen. So making biodiesel just takes the emphasis out of pulling it out of the ground. That's all you're really doing when you're creating synthetic diesel or a sort of a biodiesel or bio offset. Now, using something like methane or whatever, that's an offset gas that's coming out of pig poo, that's another way of looking at it as well. You could do that sort of thing. That's totally possible, but you would need to have a capture thing and a digester system. They're very expensive and very inefficient as well. So really what we're looking at is terms of efficiency. So how efficient a car can be over its distance, over its range, and whether it can actually be able to go very far on a single charge or not. All those kind of efficiency things, that only comes from electric. Realistically, putting anything else onto it, like biodiesel, wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense. Pardon me. Would make a whole lot of sense for us, and they're still very high CO2 emissions and very high NOx, just because you're burning things. James Connolly, good name. Random fact: in 2020, 36% of all power consumed in Ireland was from wind. That's correct. Yeah, the generation of power. Yeah, so it was good. It was a huge generation last year of renewable energy. It's not now. Two words you should remember is renewable energy, but reliable energy is the other part of that. So if we have 3 weeks of no wind, which is totally possible in Ireland, Ireland's a bit weird like that, it can suddenly just not be windy and stay like that for a long time. That it could be a big problem in the future. That could really be a big problem, in that if we're really renewable resource, we just need offset stuff. We need to make sure we got backup plans and ideas of what we're going to do. Now, at the same time, I also see a very worrying thing out there, that we closed down 3 turf-fired power stations in Ireland, and rightly so. Don't get me wrong, that was a good thing to do. That's a saving of CO2. But now we've also stopped making briquettes, and we've stopped producing firelighters, anything that to do with fire, smoky coals. It's all under investigation. But instead of stopping it, they're just importing different ones. We now have briquettes that are German briquettes sitting in petrol stations. I saw it myself the other day. Not Bord Namona ones, now they're German ones. What happened there? I thought we'd have to get rid of everything. We're going to go down that route. We'd have to do it all in one go and not be important something from. Why are we importing? We used to just get it from Bord Namona in the Midlands. Why do we have to get it from Germany now to make up difference? Yeah, that needs to be looked at in a big way. T5 Jerry says, no, Bobby Boy, we're driving the correct side of the road. I don't know if there is a correct side of the road. I know we tend to say it's the correct side of the road, but I'm not sure there is a correct side of the road. When you drive a left-hand drive car and then you drive a right-hand drive car, there's actually a difference in feel of the car. It feels different. I think a left-hand drive car feels like it's better built. That should be really wrong to say, but I think it does. Sometimes it does. Carson says service for VW ID3 every 2 years, no mileage limit. That's okay. That's a checkup, obviously, they have to do every 2 years. But I know Nissan, because I saw it on their price list when they gave me out a Nissan Leaf. I saw it on the price list about doing this yearly check. It was costing like 60, 70 quid, which is a test for the battery and test for the systems and things inside the car. And then every 2 years, I think it was 160 quid would have to be spent on a service, so a proper service thing. What was involved in the service, I'm not too sure, but I just seen the price there. It's kind of weird. Auto Union, that's it. Auto Union. Sorry, why did I think NSU was Auto Union? I'll just show you about Auto Union. Weirdly, Audi Ireland or Audi anywhere don't want to talk about Auto Union. I don't know why. They just don't. Here are some weird examples of Auto Union cars. Look at that, yuck. That's a weird looking thing, isn't it? And there's a proper Auto Union thing. Big gas, man. Never even seen it before. Weird. But there's some beautiful looking cars out there that are still around. I've actually driven that. See that? Auto Union 1000. I've driven one of those. And there was kind of less. You can see the hint of Audi there, right? You can see the four rings, which are there. That's the Auto Union logo. Audi kept that and got rid of the Auto Union idea. And that's the way the Audi logo used to look, the old one, which is real retro style, cool stuff. But I've driven those cars, which are absolutely enormously mad jokes to drive. They're not fun because if you go fast, you die. It's just that straightforward. There's no way of stopping them. They're useless brakes. That's Auto Union, yeah, for sure. My brother had an NSU 1200, the orange one you showed, and then there was an NSU Row 80 before it went bankrupt and became Audi, the four rings, Porsche, VW, Audi, NSU. Yeah, I knew NSU was in there somewhere, but yeah, that's let me just look up the NSU 1200 and hold on, copy. Oh, I showed you that one before. We do the NSU Row 80, copy. There we go. Bunk. Bring it up. This was the last of them. You might that might actually be familiar to some of you. You might have seen that. That was actually selling. They were around a bit. There was a few of them. Like you can still get one or two of those today, but like they're an extraordinarily weird car. They've got a weird, very pointy front, very low pointy front end, and then it seems to go up along the side. That shoulder line is very odd on the car. And then like Princess would have come out of that one as well. So you would have seen that kind of shape come out as an Austin Princess. Not from that car, just because that shape, it looked like that, which is very uniquely, at the time, very uniquely normal kind of shape to see, which reminds me, actually, Austin Princess, because my neighbour used to have, what happened to you there? Come on, Google, keep up, man. There was, just to show you, my neighbour, when I was a young lad, used to have one of them yokes. In that exact in that sort of weird brown poo colour thing. This was the cooler version of it. That looks like it's going fast. I guarantee you that wasn't going fast. That was probably stopped. But my neighbour, Mr. Bergen in Kildare Town, used to have one of those cars, and every single day he would have to push start that car. It was quite normal. It had a velvet or one of those kind of canvas roof things on, or whatever you call that thing. It's wrapped on the top of it anyway, and you see them pop up every once in a while for sale. They were a disaster zone of a car, but yes, people bought them. You know, they bought them, they liked them, and they were selling in numbers. But it was the last of what Austin and that kind of group was able to do at the time. Where were we after that now? Tony, yes, Bob, if you get an annual big service interval for an ICE engine vehicle from an independent non-dealer to save money while you're under warranty, is that recommended? You can. There's no reason why the warranty can't be, or why the dealership, any dealership or any garage can't service your car. The warranty is unaffected by where you get it serviced. There is some benefits to getting service in the main dealer attached, and there was main dealer history on it, but you can do it outside of your service history. Just look at make sure you've got the details down on your service history part. That's the important part, that you're not going outside of any agreement. Now, some finance agreements require you to go to a main dealer, so be careful of that. If you've got the car on finance like PCP or whatever, some of them are quite finicky. They can be very restrictive on where you can get it serviced, so sometimes you're locked into a dealership through that system. But just be sure before you do it, because there's no going back. Once the service is service, that's it. They can use any parts they want. There's nothing they can do about not warranting the car because it's been serviced by a non-franchise. Carson knows his stuff here. That CMS 1000. The NSU K70 is another car we should look at as well, shouldn't we? Hold on. You know more about NSUs than I do. There's the K70, which would look the probably closest to what Audi would have come out with. That's the K70 right there. So it's smaller than it probably looks in that picture now. Those kind of cars are all small. Those smaller, older, like 3-box saloon, and that is traditional 3-box saloon. If you look at it, boot, middle bit, bonnet. That's it. That looks like a Mark II in fairness, Ford Escort, doesn't it? And look at it. Look at that suspension. Look at that wheel turn in. My God, that man is turning that car very ferocious. Actually, he's probably doing 6 miles an hour, and he just turned it very quickly. There's a guy with his modified Prime. Don't know if I like that one so much now. That's probably not the best one. That is just a Cortina. I mean, really, like, look at it. It just is. And in every possible way. Somebody got the old copybook out there and decided to copy over one to the other for sure. RX8 9MQ RX8 Mazda would be a great candidate for VD conversion. It would be better than that engine in it for EV conversion. I love a rotary engine, but love how my bank balance more. Yeah, the rotary engine's really good, high compression, but realistically, as Martin pointed out to me on our podcast, a rotary engine is like a 2.9 litre petrol because it's 1.3 in each cylinder. Just multiply out cylinders, but it's a rotary engine, but they're not very reliable either. It's the other problem with that. 4 rings is Audi, DKW, Horsch, and Wanderer. Bloody hell, aka Auto Union. There you go. Mark Turner Smith. Those early Skoda rear-wheel drive things, quite a following. I think the Audi you mean was the A50, which didn't sell and was effectively become the very first VW Polos. The Audi A50. Let me look that up. A50. Yes, that became the first Polo. Correct. Hold on a second, I'll show you that. So there it is there. The Audi A50. Or the Audi 50. There it is, modified. Sweet. Illegal, by the way, if your wheels were beyond your wheel arch in Ireland. That's illegal. You can see they're so sweet, so nice, lovely. Oh my God, that's gorgeous. I don't know who took that picture, but that's a really good looking car. And there it is, and it's Bogo standard. For some reason, there's now the A6 in the middle of it. I don't know what's going on there. And now the e-trons and things. That is a sweet looking machine. Have to say, stance works. Well done. Love you. Love those kind of pictures. Or someone's gone beyond the Call of Duty first. Are you having a laugh? If you change your car every 3 years for a brand new one, is it more harmful to the environment than keeping the car for 10 years? If you count making new things as being harmful to the environment, and I do count that. So making something to be disposable. If you're disposing of your old car and creating a new car every single time, then yes, you are being very hard on the environment, because creating new things is one of the harshest things we do to the environment. To create this new stuff all the time, constantly recycling into new things, is the most harmful thing we do to the environment. And now we're creating things that are nearly disposable. You buy them and they're outdated in 6 months' time. We buy something else. Instead of creating new stuff, we should be using the stuff we've got for as long as we possibly can. It's hard to explain, but older cars need to be kept on the road, and if we could keep them on the road in an electric form, all the better. That's really what it comes down to, is all the better for not having to make new things, but also being able to create a car that's infinitely able to keep going. Martin Whitaker, as a young lad, my dad had a farmer friend who had a VW K70, very rare, even they're being sold. A VW K70. Let me look that up, see what it looks like. Give us all a picture. That is not what I would class a VW K70. That looks like the Audi we were talking about a second ago. But there we go. That is the VW K70 there. Look at that. Same car. So Audi had one and VW had the other one. This is the beginning of it all. Look at that one. I'd like to see you get over the speed bump on that one, boys. Or this one. Fun times can be had. But yes, they just changed the badge out. VW K70. I've never seen that one before. I know we have seen it before a minute ago, but I mean, I would never seen it called a K70 before. Eric Rochford, you might have pointed the left-hand drive feeling better built. Could be down to the most initial development using left-hand drive models and right-hand drive follows. Not worth considering overall market. Fuse box, good example. God, I hate the fuse box in Peugeot. You go into the international launch, you got a great big fuse box on the right hand side of the car becomes a left hand drive, and then suddenly the fuse box disappears into the glove box, and the glove box becomes a little tiny thing that you couldn't get gloves into. Tiny thing. Keith Colton, some home power storage can help balance the grid when there's a drop in wind. More solars on houses still going to challenge for the grid when we're generating too much more than anything. Now, I agree with you totally on that one. But then we need more batteries again. We're back to the battery problem, in that if you had a Tesla Powerwall effect, which is a definite thing that I've been investigating for a long time now, is this idea that we put a bank of batteries on the side of your house, and you hook those batteries up to both your charge points, directly into your fuse box, and then the trickle charge effect is coming from your solar panels, maybe wind farm or wind something around the house as well. So that's topping up that battery pack all of the time. The battery pack is charging the car when it needs it, but also it's returning to the grid what it doesn't need. We need the ESB on side for that one. We need prices to start coming out, how much they're going to pay you to generate electricity at home. The UK already have that. We don't have that here. It's coming. It's promised, but it's been promised for a couple of years now. If that was to happen, we would be able to sort this out in the blink of an eye. But it's very slow moving as always. But that would be the ideal. I mean, the ideal is to take ourselves off the grid, right? We pay. How much do we pay standing charge every bloody year just for having wires going into our house? And it's crazy because the standing charge all goes to ESB. None of that goes to whoever you buy your electricity from. You might get your electricity cheaper, but the standing charge remains the same. Because that all goes to the ESB. Pay them for the wires. But imagine if you had no wires. Imagine if you generated more electricity in your house than you were using, and there was no standing charge. That'd be off-grid. Probably illegal. I'm sure there's a law against that already, for sure. Bob, Sam, do you ever think we'll change sides to drive on? Personally, I don't think it will cause. No, I doubt we will, to be honest with you. Not only will the government not spend enough money to do it, but I think there'll be so much panic in people's minds about how safe it is to do it. When in reality, if it was planned out over 2 or 3 years to a date, here's our date to do this. If England can leave Europe, right, we can change the size of the road to drive on. If a big thing like that can be done, we could definitely do this. But we could definitely change the size of the road. Yeah, we could. But whether it would actually benefit us in some way or not, I don't know. But it certainly is something we need to be looking at, and something we could change the price of cars instead. We definitely need to look at the price of VRT. VRT is insane, lads. I showed you that price list already. Just to remind everybody, in case you're thinking about it, that is the price list I'm talking about. This is for a BMW 530e. The car should be €60,000 here. There's 13,776 of VAT. That's value added tax. That's on everything. And then there's 10,000, nearly 11,000 euros of VRT, vehicle registration tax, making the car nearly 85,000 euro. 85,000 euros from a 60,000 euro car. That's just obscene prices. Just the price is just crazy. It makes me just freak out whenever I see it. Steve McCormick, what car would you like to see being brought back as electric or 80 Citroen DS? Citroen DS 100%. Citroen DS would be the one I'd want straight away, because that was just an awesome looking car to begin with. But now, just you can't run them every day now. They're just old fashioned. But if you could just underneath, if you could keep the exterior, but underneath everything becomes electric and modern shocks, modern hydraulic suspension, or modern air suspension or something on, you should be sorted on that. No problem at all. It's a great car. Or a Trabant EV would be awesome. Trabant EV, yeah, in fairness. A crash nose all-style classic pretty much guarantees death. Depending on, well, you see, the problem is with the all-style classics, yeah, if you put it up against a modern car is going to win for sure. But in the all-style classics, you're never really going fast enough to hit it. If you've ever driven anything, even go back to the 80s and drive something from the 80s, and you realise going fast is scary in a car. Whereas modern cars, you could be doing 200 kilometers an hour in a modern car and it doesn't feel scary in a very modern car. Hi Bob, any precautions for DSG gearbox? No, not really. DSG, when it was the old one, when it was dry and it became wet. Was it dry gearbox and then it became wet, or was it wet and it became dry? Whatever one it is, the older ones, the ones from like early 2006, 2007, somewhere around there, they probably weren't the most reliable in the world, but they got better. They got a lot better over the years. Now there's very little happens to them. They don't even really need servicing much anymore. The EW K70 started life as the NSU K70, but after the merger with VW, it was released as the K70, a supposed replacement for the VW Type 3. Oh, got to be such a DS. Look at automotive Australia there as well. But Tony S says, Bob, there are Mercedes used car importers based in the UK that import from Japan. For example, Merc S-Class, 10 years, high spec, But will the new taxes be added if you're ordering through the UK importer? Yes. If it's coming in, if it was registered in the UK, it lands in Ireland, it gets a 10% charge on it. If it's not registered in the UK, so if it's been brought from Japan, landing in UK and it's been brought onto you, then it doesn't attract that charge. So it's between the two. If you're going from the US to Ireland, bring it through Holland, there's only 10% import duty there. So there's ways around this. But if you're getting some Japanese stuff and it's got a German car, as long as they don't register it in the UK, then you won't pay it. If it's registered in the UK, you're buggered. I'd bring back the Austin Metro MG Turbo Maestro MG Turbo's electric car. It's a shape of it for sure. Dry clutch gave some issues. We started around 2012, 2013 or so. Eric Rochford as is, buy on. Keith Colton, BMW 2002 or 205 T16 released for me. 2000 BMW 2002. That is a beautiful car. Like, that's just so perfectly balanced. Anyway, thank you very much. We have made it. 3D Printing Dublin is thrown in 449. Thank you very much for that as well. You're very kind to be doing the super chats today, boys. Hopefully we have guided you through a beautiful Sunday afternoon. It is after 4 o'clock. We've made it. We're here. We're still together though. And I'll be back next Sunday as normal. You can always find me if you need to contact me on Instagram or on TikTok or on Twitter, or wherever it is that you're getting your social medias from. My big advice to you this week is to take 2 hours of your life and put this yoke in a drawer, your phone and social media and everything else, and just go for a walk. Just go 2 hours, walk, have a stroll around, and forget about the things that are on the internet just for a little while, and try to get your brain back into a position where you're content. Contentment is everything. It's everything in life, being content. Not happiness, not positivity, none of them things. It's contentment, because everything else is fleeting. It disappears. It just goes by. You can be happy for 5 minutes, then you're sad for 10 minutes, right? So that's how life works. And positivity only comes when you're trying to be positive, when you're trying to exude positivity. It only comes out. So really, literally, you just need to get to the point of contentment and be content with what you got. Tomorrow is another day as per normal. We're back to Monday again. Come back around to go swap my car again tomorrow for another go. It's been absolutely delightful to have you here for the last 2 hours. Hopefully I've entertained you in some way or another, and that you've gotten the information you were looking for. But yes, definitely take a little bit of time out for just you. Don't worry about trying to take time off people around you. Just take it out for you. Just be you. Just spend an hour with yourself in your own head, and it's much better for you, away from social media, away from the internet and Twitter and everything else telling you the world is ending, because it isn't. Next year you'll have something else to be depressed about other than COVID, because it'll all be gone. Then we'll what are we going to have about then? Price of cars, VRT, laws, they'll be here. Anyway, look after yourselves, take care for the next week, and if I don't see you between now and then, please look after everybody out there. And until the next time, I will see you on the far side.